There you go. What's up, people? Welcome back to Mary Killer Gaming. It's me, your host, David D. Welcome to, look at the time. It's 3 a.m. 3:50. It's about to be 4 a.m., dude. Why I can't sleep, but I'm gonna chill, watch some videos. You know what? Now that I think of it, I might actually put the audio through the TV because you won't be able to hear my voice. And yes, this is me chatting. I'm not going to mute myself in this live stream. So if you're not interested in that, sorry. Okay. Where are my headphones? Oh, yeah, they are.
Excuse me when your audio goes to shit. But it's too damn hot here. I live in California. It's hot all year round, even in the summer. Alright. Funky fresh beats. What?
Taking a cold shower can feel very uncomfortable, give you goosebumps, and make your whole body feel freezing. However, cold showers and cold therapy in general can help you feel more alert and energized, it can improve your health, and can even help you burn fat. These are just some of the benefits that you can use to justify going through the unpleasantness associated with using cold immersion as a therapeutic agent. And really, there are 6 amazing scientifically proven benefits when cold therapy is used correctly. And I want you to understand what those are and how to start using the cold to reap those benefits today. Now, the first thing that most people don't realize is that cold therapy can drastically improve your mood and your mental health to the point that it may even help prevent and even treat depression. One of the ways that cold exposure is able to improve your mental state is thanks to norepinephrine. When your body is exposed to cold temperatures, norepinephrine is rapidly released into the bloodstream. This is a neurotransmitter that's associated with things like vigilance, attention, focus, and mood. And this isn't debatable. The fact that cold exposure can increase norepinephrine is shown in multiple studies, both in mice and humans. Interestingly, when norepinephrine is depleted in a person, that person becomes depressed. And we actually see this in a study published in the Journal of Neuropsychiatric Disease and Treatment. That's why ice plunges and cold showers might help prevent and treat depression. The cold therapy drastically increases norepinephrine levels, which helps support a better mood and cognitive function. Now, of course, the question is, how cold should the temperature be to get the benefits of a boost in norepinephrine? Well, one study found that 1 hour of cold water immersion at a relatively regular temperature of 68 degrees Fahrenheit did not activate norepinephrine release. Meanwhile, 1 hour at 57 degrees Fahrenheit increased norepinephrine levels by a whopping 530%. Of course, 1 hour sounds painfully long, but fortunately, you can get similar benefits in a shorter time frame if you turn the temperature down further. And we have evidence of this. A long-term study found that by immersing yourself in cold water at 40 degrees Fahrenheit for only 20 seconds and sticking to that routine consistently for 12 weeks, that can increase norepinephrine levels by 200 to 300%. And it could be possible that taking an ice bath in freezing cold water would require even less time to reap the benefits. Now, you don't want to go straight to freezing cold water. You do want to work up to it, and I'll go over that process in a bit. But first, you should be aware that one of the best benefits of exposing your body to the cold is that it leads to a reduction in overall inflammation throughout your entire body. Now, you've probably heard that inflammation is the root cause of most modern diseases. And even though inflammation gets a pretty bad rap, inflammation itself isn't entirely a bad thing. In fact, it's vital for your health and well-being because it's the first step of the healing process that's used to prevent further damage by eliminating the initial cause of the cell injury, and then the inflammation helps clear out the damaged tissues and the dead cells. This is actually what starts the process of repairing damaged tissues. However, when the inflammation process goes into overdrive, so when you have chronically high inflammation markers for seemingly no reason, that's when inflammation causes a lot of trouble for a lot of people. For example, as stated by the Harvard Medical School, chronic inflammation is associated with heart disease, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, and bowel diseases like Crohn's disease and colitis. On top of that, research also identifies inflammation as the key driver of the aging process. One specific study looked closely at elderly people ranging from 85 to over 110 years old, and researchers found that low inflammation was the only biomarker that accurately predicted survival and cognitive capabilities across all the age groups. Remember that cognitive decline is what leads to the rising rates of dementia and Alzheimer's that we see today. The researchers also came to the conclusion that inflammation is one of the most important variables that determine mortality, capability, and cognition up to a very old age. So according to the evidence, if you can reduce inflammation, it might be a way to increase the length of your life, while also reducing the likelihood of you having to suffer with a chronic disease like heart disease, diabetes, or arthritis. And this is where cold showers and ice plunges come into the picture, since they can help reduce inflammation. We're still not exactly sure the exact mechanisms that lead to a reduction in inflammation, but the 5x increase in norepinephrine that we talked about earlier definitely has at least something to do with it. Research indicates that norepinephrine inhibits the inflammatory pathway in the body by decreasing levels of a small protein used by the immune system known as TNF-alpha. This is excellent news because TNF-alpha is a very potent molecule that increases inflammation, and it's involved in almost all human diseases ranging from cancer to diabetes to inflammatory bowel disease. Research also shows that norepinephrine decreases other inflammatory chemicals like MIP-1 alpha, for example. Now, aside from norepinephrine, taking a cold shower can also reduce inflammation by simply lowering your body's temperature and causing your blood vessels to constrict. And even though that sounds like it'll feel horrible and potentially get you sick, one of the surprising benefits associated with cold exposure is actually improved immunity. And this is once again based on science. We have a study, for example, that looked at whether cold water immersion at a temperature of 57 degrees Fahrenheit could impact the immune system in men that would spend 1 hour 3 times a week in the moderately cold water. Ultimately, they found that cold water immersion 3 times per week for 6 weeks increased the number of lymphocytes. And a lymphocyte is a type of white blood cell found in the immune system. They help attack invading bacteria, viruses, and other toxins. In other words, cold therapy benefits immunity. This is most likely why we have tons of anecdotal evidence where people that take cold showers or swim in cold water claim to get sick less often. There's also other scientific data that supports this claim as well. For example, a study found that swimming during the winter months decreases the incidence of respiratory tract infections by 40%. You would assume that you would be more likely to catch bronchitis from swimming in cold water, but it turns out that the opposite is actually true. Of course, like many healthy things, exposing yourself to cold temperatures doesn't feel all that great while you're doing it, and it will require some mental toughness. Luckily, cold showers are by themselves a great way to improve mental toughness. Most people simply don't enjoy being exposed to very cold temperatures, but if you can overcome those feelings and do it anyway, that can increase your tolerance to being uncomfortable. By doing things that are outside your comfort zone, you'll become more in control of your own emotions, and you'll be more equipped to handle stressors that occur during everyday life. One very big believer in this is Wim Hof, and he's an extreme athlete that has been nicknamed the Iceman. He's set multiple records for the longest time in direct full body contact with ice, one of his longest times being just under 2 hours. He also has broken other records like the longest distance swim under ice and the fastest barefoot half marathon. Long story short, Hof gives a ton of credit to cold exposure for increasing his mental toughness, and he believes that anybody can do the same. Now, another big benefit for those of you that are trying to lose weight is that cold exposure may actually help you burn fat. When you're exposed to a cold temperature, brown fat gets activated. Brown fat, also known as brown adipose tissue, is a special type of body fat that produces heat to help maintain body temperature in cold conditions. This activation can cause a significant increase in your metabolic rate because the process requires a lot of energy for the brown fat to keep your body warm. So by exposing yourself to a cold temperature, either in the form of a freezing cold shower or an ice plunge, you could temporarily ramp up your metabolism, and that can lead to additional fat loss. An example of this can be seen in a study in which a group of men stood in room temperature water at 68 degrees Fahrenheit for an hour. During that 1 hour in water that's far from freezing, they were able to raise their metabolic rate by almost 100%. And when the researchers lowered the temperature to 57 degrees Fahrenheit, the men were able to boost their metabolic rate by 350%. Now, I'm sure this makes you wonder how high you can boost your metabolism in a much colder temperature like an ice bath. However, it's important to keep in mind that cold exposure can increase hunger in some people. So if you want to use ice baths or cold showers to effectively assist with weight loss, make sure you don't eat more and accidentally raise your caloric intake after starting to expose yourself to colder temperatures. Now, the last benefit before I give you a step-by-step action plan is that cold therapy can also improve your endurance capacity by boosting mitochondrial biogenesis, which is basically a fancy way of saying that cold exposure can increase the number of mitochondria that are found within your cells. Mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cells. They provide energy by carrying out biochemical reactions and other cellular processes, which is why they're crucial for endurance capacity. Mitochondria are what gives us the ability to use oxygen for energy production, which is why increasing the number of mitochondria benefits aerobic capacity or endurance. For example, in a study in which male runners were immersed in cold water at 50 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes 3 times a week, after 4 weeks of that routine, the men were able to increase mitochondrial biogenesis in their muscle tissue. Another study found that cold water exposure at 50 degrees Fahrenheit after high-intensity running increased PGC1 alpha, which is a gene that increases the number of mitochondria within muscle tissue. Now, as promised, I want to go over what you can do to start experiencing the benefits for yourself. Keep in mind, there is no one best way to approach cold therapy. Some people will also require slower, more progressive steps to adapt to this new stressor. And with that said, it's important to also mention that more isn't necessarily better. If you're new to cold exposure, don't aim to be in an ice bath for 20 minutes at a time right away. Instead, take it slow. Start with a slightly cold shower. The next time, make it a little colder. And just like lifting weights, you can make it more and more challenging to withstand over time. Alternatively, you can also start by turning the shower dial to the coldest temperature and only stay in there for a short 5 to 15 seconds. That's totally fine for your first time. And then over time, you could work your way up towards staying in the cold temperature for longer. Another route you can take, especially if you don't want to go straight into a cold shower, is to alternate between a warm and cold shower. This is also known as contrast therapy, which gives you the benefits of regular cold exposure, and it can also help you recover from your workouts. In fact, we even have a rather large 2017 meta-analysis that found that contrasting between hot and cold baths was able to help sports athletes recover faster from fatigue onset after their games. So you can switch between hot and cold, doing each for 60 seconds at a time, or to work up to that, you can start by alternating between 2 minutes under a warm shower, followed by a minute in the cold. You can do this for 5 to 8 rounds, and you'll probably feel great when you're done. The last and my favorite way, when possible, is to use a sauna in combination with a cold shower or ice bath. This gives you the option to do something like 10-minute rounds of being in the sauna, combined with a cold plunge or a cold shower in between each round. The theory behind alternating between warm and cold like this is that it causes the blood vessels throughout your body to quickly open and close. The warmth causes them to open and the cold causes them to close. This rapid opening and closing of the blood vessels creates a pumping action that can decrease swelling, inflammation, stimulate the removal of waste products such as lactate, and it can also improve delivery of nutrients to your muscles. Once you become more accustomed to the cold showers, you can try an ice bath instead. This is obviously much colder and much more intense. But regardless of what option you start with, the recommendation from people like Wim Hof in regard to dealing with the cold is to focus on your breathing and to try your best to calm your body down as much as possible, almost like you're meditating. That's the best way to cope with the cold. So that about wraps it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, many benefits that you get out of taking cold showers, especially improving mental toughness, immunity, and mood while reducing things like inflammation and body fat. That's all also possible by following a healthy diet and a solid workout plan. And combining cold therapy along with a healthy diet and workout regimen can only benefit you even further. So if you'd like any extra help with setting up the ideal diet and workout plan for your body so you can feel and look your best, then click the link in the description, or you can visit my website directly at gravitytransformation.com. See you guys soon.
That was pretty cool, right? That was some informative shit if you care about your health. I mean, I found it useful to take cold showers now. And I usually just, like, every time I shower, at the end, I always throw like a 3-second cold shower. Just because I enjoy it. I enjoy the feeling. But I can't stand it for long. But what he said, keep yourself calm and focus on the breathing. Maybe I can. But I enjoy the cold. I like how it feels when because it just fucks with my head a lot, dude. It's just like, whoa, what the fuck? And it's like, I kind of enjoy it, to tell the truth. It's pretty cool. What the fuck?
The Simpsons! It's finally here! I have waited for this since the beginning. They finally did it. The Simpsons arcade machine is here. I'm at Arcade 1UP's Miami headquarters to get an exclusive first look at the new machines going on sale this year. And I'm having a bit of a cow, man.
That's pretty cool.
Watch out for the sandals. There's a lot of button mashing memories going on right now.
She's a gamer?
And
She doesn't look like one.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but
Yeah, she's
no
not
different
one.
than when I was like 10 years old, right? Since 2018, Arcade 1UP has been taking
Turtles in
the
Time.
classic arcade machine you remember playing growing up and bringing them back to life as slightly smaller recreations that you can play in your home. And fans are sure to go wild for
I want
the
the
90s
Simpsons
hit
one.
game, The Simpsons. I got to play briefly with an early prototype, so this is not the final design.
That's
Like
dope. I used to
artwork
play that shit as a
mimics the
kid.
machine that came out 30 years ago. It's a nutty beat-em-up game.
30
featuring
years.
Marge,
Holy shit,
Homer,
that's just
Bart,
my
and
age.
Lisa. This 4-player
No
cabinet
wonder
is
I fucking
priced
played
at
it.
$700.
I didn't play Turtles in Time until I was a teenager, and it was like all fucked up. The machine was all fucked up. She was old and beat up.
OneUp.com. I'm playing 4 people at once. This is gonna be crazy. The machine comes with a light-up marquee, and the speakers are hidden underneath.
That's cool.
There's also a riser to play while standing. I want to show you the controls here. So it's just like you remember with the placement. You had Marge, then Homer, Bart, and they're even drawn in the old style too, Lisa. This is a game that came out about a year after the Simpsons series came out. So everything here is just all over the map, and it's kind of why I like it though. So the game begins with Smithers stealing a diamond, and that gets mixed up with Maggie's pacifier. So he kidnaps Maggie, and you have to fight goons to get Maggie back. Marge uses a vacuum to fight, Homer punches, Bart has his skateboard,
yeah.
and Lisa is whipping a jump rope to get through
I remember
all the
that. She had a
Springfield
jump rope.
madness. No, why? I'm being attacked by a giant crusty.
Oh, fucking dope. Giant
No.
clown.
No, I'm still playing. No, we're not. We're finishing this. It's wild to come back to a game you played as a kid, but of course, all I wanted was to get 3 other people in on the action around me, because I don't have the skills yet to play 2 characters at once.
You can play 4 people with that shit. It's crazy.
It got a little crazy. Which brings me to the beauty of a new feature, the Live button. The company's latest machines connect to Wi-Fi, so you can play online with other Simpsons machine owners. The idea is that you can be matched with a stranger or connect to a friend you know who also has the machine. And that Live Play button is also coming to their other new cabinets, including X-Men. Just want to win you. Win to everybody. Win for everybody. Tornado for you. Tornado for your friends.
Tornado comp.
Oh, I only have so many times I can do tornado. Okay. The X-Men arcade game originally came out in 1992. You have the mutant heroes teaming up to fight against Magneto, taking down the Sentinels. There you go. There you go. No, the mutant power can use only when I'm kidding. Better be fast, kids.
Hey everybody, Metal Jesus here, and today I have a really fun video for you. I am racing across town right now to meet up with a local game collector who has a storage unit full of really cool, rare, uncommon, very interesting video game stuff. Many of it I have never shown on my channel before. I think you're gonna love this video. Now, the story of how I met this guy is pretty interesting. You might remember, probably about a month ago, I did a video where I was reviewing the latest Terra Onion add-on for the PC Engine. Well, the problem is I don't have a PC Engine, and so I reached out to some people that I know. They didn't have one, so I jumped on a local Facebook group where a lot of collectors are, and a guy responded. He's like, yeah, I happen to have one, and oh, by the way, he told me that I had featured his booth at that Antique Pavilion video that I did back in 2020. I was like, wow, small world, right? He's like, you know what? I got way more stuff where that came from. Would you like to come check out my storage locker? And I am so glad I did.
My name is Jesse, and I'm a seller at the local antique mall. And this is what I use to fill up that antique mall with stuff.
Now, if you think back to that video I did on the antique mall, one of the things I commented on was how unusual it was to see some of these imports and kind of rare games in an antique mall. Well, the reason for that is because Jesse's day job is to travel to Japan. And so he, up to the beginning of the pandemic, would do that a lot and basically buy stuff there to bring back to the Seattle area to stock his antique booth.
The reason why I have all this stuff in a storage locker is because A, it won't fit in my house. Well, and B, I probably have a little bit of an addiction to buying, right? As I say, my eyes are bigger than my wallet sometimes. So this is where I have to store the overstock that I have, that I use to stock my space up at the antique mall.
So the crazy thing is that Jesse just kind of let me go crazy in here. He just let me loose in his storage locker to kind of dig through it and kind of discover on my own all the stuff he has in here. Oh man, I mean, to say I was like a kid in a candy store, that is an understatement. And as you can see here, one of the first things I found, again, is something that you rarely see, is a bunch of Famicom discs. If you're not familiar with this, so essentially in Japan, there was a floppy disk add-on that you could add to the Famicom. And a lot of games came out on floppy disk. And it's something, again, that you just typically don't see, but yet he had hundreds of them in a couple of these storage bins. It was wild. You see a box of the Famicom disk systems here. Now, one of the things that he told me, though, is that his goal is to repair everything here. That everything that you see, for the most part, has been repaired by him and in perfect working order to sell to, local collectors. Now, these particular ones aren't in great shape. They could probably use some cleaning up, but that's why that they're in the storage locker and not actually at his booth. In this bin here, you see that he's got a couple CD-ROM 2 drives for the PC Engine, As well as a little deeper in there, you see something that you don't see very often that I know a lot of people are looking for, the PC Engine Turbo Duo. Now, these have actually been both recapped, and then you'll notice that one of them had a little sticker there that says that he also replaced the laser. So the laser was defective, and he got that one working as well. So yeah, this is something I typically do not see. I mean, it's very unusual to see these. Here's some more PC Engine stuff. Again, you know, when he reached out to me, he said, "Oh yeah, I've got a couple of those. You know, you can borrow them for the video." I was like, "What?" Okay, you know, yeah, he's not kidding around. He's got a bunch of them here. Here are some colored N64s that he picked up, and in many cases, he actually has the matching controller with it as well. Now, he told me that a lot of these he picked up at Japanese flea markets, and, you know, in different states of working or not, but again, he'd get a good deal on it with the idea of bringing them back to the Seattle area, repairing them so that he could sell them locally. I love the fact that you can see here that it still has the original bag and price on there that he paid at a flea market, 300 yen, or about $3. So even broken, that's probably a good deal, but he says that actually, you know, all of those, if they're not repaired, they will be. They'll be working perfectly. Here's something that I don't think I've seen outside of retro gaming expos. I don't think I know anybody who has one of these, and you see a bunch of them here, including different colored ones. This is the Sharp Twin Famicom. This is a version of the Famicom that has the floppy disk built into it. I think this is one of the coolest retro gaming consoles ever. It's so cool looking. Man, that is really neat to see. In addition to console games and console systems, he also has a bunch of Japanese computer stuff. You see some MSX floppy games here. And I love these because look how sturdy the boxes are, right? You know, I love the plastic clamshell. I love the trays that they sit in. It's just an extra layer of protection that, for the most part, I don't think you really saw this over in the West. He's got some really interesting stuff in here, including Snatcher on the MSX. Again, something you typically just do not see every day. So it's cool to see, you know, a really nice looking manual in there, as well as the floppy version. And it also has like this sound, looks like a sound cartridge or something like that. I thought that was really interesting. So that must enhance the sound in some way. I've mentioned this before, but the Sega Saturn, while it didn't do very well in North America, it did extremely well over in Japan. And because of that, well, there are just a ton of great Sega Saturn games that you can get as imports. And you see a box of them here. Again, these will eventually be put out in his antique booth here in the antique mall, which again just makes me laugh that someone could potentially walk into that antique mall and just see a bunch of rare and uncommon Sega Saturn games in there. That's just awesome and hilarious at the same time. He was showing me some more computer floppy games, and I noticed that they all said good or maybe missing the manual or things like that. And I was impressed to learn that he actually tests and confirms every single one of these games if it works. That is not something you typically see when you're looking at games on eBay. Often they are just sold as is when it comes to floppy disk, because it's really hard to get a floppy disk and test all that stuff. And so, man, that is, again, next level stuff. I thought that was really cool he does that. It's not something you see every day. Here are some PlayStation 1s, but what's cool again is that he loves to tinker with them, and he'll install the MM3 mod chip on there so that when you buy one of these, then you can just easily play import games. Another random box here, he opens it up, and yeah, you can see he's got a bunch of Game & Watches complete in the box. These have become very collectible in the last 5 years or so, and he's just got a bunch of them sitting here. I was like, oh my gosh, again, something that you may never see outside of like a retro gaming convention for sure. That was pretty awesome. He's also got a bunch of NES top loaders here, as well as matching dog bone controllers. They probably just need to be cleaned up a little bit. They've been in there for a while, as well as, check it out, pretty much almost new in-box Game Boy Advances. He was kind of curious though. He's like, you know, he's kind of on the fence. He's like, should he put those out there with, say, the screen mods or just stock? Some people maybe want one or the other. Now, I had to ask him, what is up with the wall of Wii's?
So it's it's a sad story for me. I was buying via Yahoo Auctions, and the auction was sort of titled, hey, we have a bunch of handhelds, we have a bunch of Wii's and Nintendo 64s and Super Famicoms and all these things. And so I bought the auctions. Thankfully, I didn't spend a lot of money on the auctions. But what I found out as boxes and boxes and boxes started showing up at my doorstep was that 95% of it was Japanese Wii consoles. So you can see what I have here. There's actually a stack of boxes in the very far corner there. That's still more Wii's I haven't unpacked because I ran out of shelf room. So, it's embarrassing. I got taken for a ride. It is what it is, and here they sit.
Here's looking at part of his Neo Geo stash here, and as you can see, he's got a bunch of the consoles. Now, some of these are in various states of repair. Some of these actually need to have the boards replaced or cleaned up. He also likes to do some AV mods to it. So you'll see on this one here, for instance, it has S-Video out. So he has a bunch of options for people who either want to get it sort of stock or perhaps cleaned up and also, with a better audio video output, as well as a handful of games here. Now, Neo Geo is notoriously difficult to collect for and expensive, so he doesn't have an insane collection here, but it's decent. And kind of what he does is he keeps these around to bundle them with the system. So if you end up buying a Neo Geo from him, he typically likes to also include in there a starter game for people. And that's kind of what these are for here. And here's something I almost never see. Maybe you'll see one or two games, but nothing quite like this. This is the Neo Geo CD. This is a bunch of games that he has just kind of, again, ready to go out on the floor. This is only about half of what he has. To give you an idea, that game right there, that racing game, Overtop, that alone online will typically be listed for $800 to $1,000 just for that one game. It's a very niche market, I will say. Not a lot of people have a Neo Geo CD, but if you have one, man, this is like a gold mine here. I have one personally myself, but again, I've probably got, I think maybe 5 games for it total, and they're all really common. I don't even know if I've seen this many before. It's kind of insane. It's pretty awesome. Speaking of Neo Geo CD, if you're looking for one, well, he's got a couple for you here. So, yeah, he can hook you up. As well as some fight sticks. Again, I don't think I've ever seen quite so many of them jammed into a cardboard box before. That is pretty awesome to see. It's funny because we were talking about the Neo Geo controllers, and I mentioned how I absolutely
Berry! First blood! Blackberry! Fantastic! Mulberry!
This is the first stage, first phase.
Gooseberry! Bastard! Fever! Super!
How did that feel? I love it.
Fuckhead! Special kill! Fuckhead! Death is multiplied.
Let me get him. Only give me one weak spot. Where the rest of the weak spots at? Yo, bro. Oh, let's go.
Fuckhead! Death is multiplied.
Yo, where is the weak spots at? Here we go. I see it. Oh, wow.
Fuckhead! Special kill. Fuckhead! Death is multiplied. Fuckhead! Special kill.
I got hit a few times.
Pesky ass mosquito.
Oh. Oh.
My sword weeps.
That's tired fire, bruh. There's stuff like that that's just mad cool, bro. You just sit here and be like, you can't even be mad at the game for not having specific things. Stuff like that, man. Let's do it. What's this? What is it? Yo, what's poppin', yo? How you doing today? Over here playing No More Heroes, man. We gonna get into a few things today. Oh, all right. Oh, we got some good stuff here. We're probably gonna play Ghost of Tsushima today. If you ever played that or seen it. No. Knew a few people that never did. Had to put them on, yo. Had to put them on. Perfect dodge a total of 25 times to get this. Didn't I? I did that already. All right, let me get that. Let me dodge a few times here. I don't need to save. Supposed to be some mission. Oh, there he goes. You serious? Are you serious? Oh gosh. So how am I supposed to get over there? What? Wow. Are you serious right now? Oh wow, that's supposed to be difficult.
Oh, ouch!
Hurry up. Alright, I guess we're just using our regular self this time. I hope this is nothing crazy. I really hope not. Oh my gosh.
Crusher dead king!
Bruh.
Strawberry, right on.
Get up, bro.
Raspberry, double kill. Blueberry.
What? Oh my god. Well, I'm about to die. Yeah, it's about to be all over for me. This dude is invincible. Here we go. I love it. Oh, let's go. Hold on. Where's he at? What? Where are you at? No. Yeah. I'm invincible. What? What up? Let's go.
Come on.
Alright, come on. I don't know why I pressed that. Oh gosh. This is toxic.
All right, one more time.
I don't care. This is toxic. Should the frog go first?
I'm not gonna hold back.
I don't think the Alright, yeah. Come over here.
Nowhere is that more apparent than in the combat, utilizing his beam katana, which is essentially a... Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today it's time for us to review No More Heroes 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Switch. These reviews were originally written by the lovely Stuart Jipp and have been adapted for video by me. And in case it wasn't immediately obvious, we're going to start with No More Heroes 1 and then move on to No More Heroes 2. If you just want to watch the other one, we've got some bloomin' chapter markers down there. Just have a look. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. No More Heroes is gross. It's a sleazy, grimy, ugly game with an indefensible moral vacuum of a protagonist in luring Otaku Travis Touchdown, and it's absolutely brilliant. Essentially a hack-and-slash title with some open-world elements, No More Heroes rises above its often pedestrian gameplay with an overflowing reservoir of over-the-top action, fabulous aesthetics, ceaselessly enjoyable writing, and hell, just an awful lot of straight-up style. Even when the gameplay is boring, and it often is, you won't be actually bored, which is a real testament to the game's sheer confidence in itself and its gleeful disregard for convention. It's the hallmark of the very best. They work so hard, but they make it look easy. In fact, one of the best things about No More Heroes is its uncompromising commitment to its own themes. The story here is notably quite simple, at least to begin with, and realistically, it barely matters. Although, having said that, the cutscenes and dialogue are thoroughly entertaining throughout. What's really worthy of note is the comedic application of the more banal situations of the gameplay. You see, Travis is an assassin, hoping to reach the very top ranks of the United Assassins Association by killing off its members one by one in ranked battles organized by the mysterious femme fatale, Sylvia. The fascinating part is that setting up said battles costs money, and an awful lot of it, and one of the most prominent ways to get the dough is to take on literal part-time jobs. Now, these jobs are almost uniformly normally pretty damn dull. Gameplay-wise, they tend to amount to little more than egregious menial repetition of what can only be described as very uninteresting actions, but that's the bloomin' point! The contrast between the utterly tiresome lawn mowing game, which Stuart actually fell asleep playing, and the hyperkinetic, personality-rich boss battles you earn for its completion is genuinely funny. Is it a comment on the mundanity of open-world games which often have you partaking in similarly arbitrary tasks just to advance your level enough to do the next quote-unquote story mission? Well, who knows the real intention, except probably Suda51, but it resonates brilliantly in 2020. Maybe even more so than it ever could have done back in the Wii era. So No More Heroes has aged like a fine wine then, in terms of its narrative at the very least. It's a game of contrasts, and nowhere is that more apparent than in the combat. Utilizing his beam katana, which is essentially a lightsaber in all but a name, Travis cuts through swathes of cannon fodder enemies with a fairly traditional combination of the old, taps and holds, and tilting the right analog stick in the display direction, or indeed swiping your Joy-Con as a bit like the Wii remote, in order to issue the final devastating blow. And this results in a grotesque shower of gore as enemies are dismembered effortlessly, and sometimes more than one at a time if the situation is right. The dichotomy between the traditional, tropey bleep bloop sound effects and other gaming iconography is just genuinely hilarious when the brutal consequences of your actions are laid bare. Which brings us to another point. What you're getting here on your Switch is the full uncut original game. In the PAL release for the Wii, defeated enemies would explode into pixelated showers of coins, and whilst this was a cool effect, it erased that shocking and very much intentional violence, which had the knock-on effect of making the rest of the game's decisions seem sort of quirky for the sake of it rather than thoughtful, nuanced, or satirical. It's a little spoken of effect of game censorship, the erasure of thematic consistency. In this case, it was not the harmless aesthetic change of, say, putting a more conservative outfit on an underaged character. But no, thankfully the Switch version of No More Heroes isn't just the best version, but the best version by a country mile. It's pretty much at locked 60 frames a second with barely noticeable dips in the open world occasionally, and it runs like a dream even in handheld mode. You're getting the finest possible experience here, the original Wii version with none of the game-ruining compromises of the PS3's Heroes Paradise disaster. We haven't even really mentioned the diversity and creativity of the bosses, and that's a pretty important thing to mention. The unlockable lucha moves, the purchasable upgrades, there's so much praiseworthy here that it's almost impossible not to gush. But let's be real, not everyone is going to like No More Heroes. The driving sections are boring and overlong, the job minigames as mentioned are similarly tedious, it's all intentional and it all feeds into the story and the satire, but you'd be forgiven for not digging it right away. Maybe. Perhaps a more understandable cause for concern is Travis's horn dog lust for the likes of Sylvia and the eerily young-looking anime characters he practically drools over. Of course, this stuff is meant to be uncomfortable and confrontational in a way that most modern titles wouldn't even bother to try, but if the grubby ethos doesn't work for you, you're probably not going to enjoy this game. It's maybe a little bit too close to home. We, however, had a blast. No More Heroes is something very rare, a game that's actually better now than it was on its original system, showing us just how little the gaming landscape has actually moved forward. It is most certainly and avowedly not for everyone, and you get the impression that that's just the way director Suda51 likes it. Artier than most art games, more thoughtful than most think pieces, and cruder than crude oil, No More Heroes uses its own repetition to decisive, impressive effect. Glorious, gorious, gorgeous, and gregarious, this madcap anime nightmare deserves your attention. If you missed it on the Wii, then buy it immediately, and if you didn't, well, you probably already bought it. Bigger, better, more. Not exactly the watchwords of the original shockingly audacious No More Heroes, with its minimal content stretched out across the sweeping empty landscape of Santa Destroy, memorable for its sheer desolation and entirely in keeping with its satirical take on the so-called open world game. But as Grasshopper's splash screen reminds us, punk's not dead, boy. And what could be more punk than taking almost everything that defined No More Heroes and completely flipping it on its head? True, the fighting side of things is still in No More More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle, and it's been tweaked with new moves and special attacks to make things a little bit breezier and, yes, more fun. And from that standpoint, it really is bigger, better, more. The tiresome by design part-time job sections in which you raised money for your next ranked fight, gone, completely replaced by enormously fun 8-bit NES-style minigames, including an incredibly addictive variation on the classic Pipe Dream that we'd honestly love to see expanded into a game of its own. Travis's apartment as well has been expanded into a fully traversable space rammed with distractions. There's side quests of sorts involving playing with his cat Jean, who has gotten mighty fat in the 3 years between this game and its predecessor. In addition to this, there's a Touhou-style vertical shoot-'em-up that's available to play on Travis's TV, with multiple levels of play to boot. Also new is the inclusion of an additional playable character, who we are choosing not to spoil. I mean, yeah, the game is like a decade old, but it would feel wrong to do it. The free-roaming meandering of the near-empty Santa Destroy has been completely excised, instead opting for a simple but stylish menu. No more lengthy, uneventful bike rides between objectives here. Hopping around to the various important spots in the city is now effortless. Once again, you'll be able to buy clothing, work out at the gym, or simply initiate the next ranked battle. Another change here is the complete removal of the monetary charge for said battles. This is a bit of a double-edged beam katana, as it's always been nice to have the freedom to engage in content simply because you want to and because it's fun, and that fabulous air of Mickey taking is basically lost, or at the very least rendered a little bit toothless. Indeed, the breaking of the fourth wall here is much more overt, with characters directly addressing the player, even early on in a sort of somewhat forced, obvious manner that's a world away from the relative subtlety of No More Heroes. And yes, we are brutally aware that we just called the ludicrous, absurd madness that is No More Heroes subtle. It just is. In a weird way it is. You can see what we mean when we repeat that mantra. Bigger, better, more. In some ways, No More Heroes 2 is the absolute polar opposite of the first game, and that's a mixed blessing. Whilst the gameplay and the style remain as brilliantly over the top as the original, some sections really must be seen to be believed, we found that there was an overwhelming sense of compromise to No More Heroes 2. Again, not in terms of what it offers in content, which is absolutely fit to bursting, but in terms of the game's overall themes and sense of uniqueness. It would be foolhardy to expect a direct sequel to be as fresh as the first game, but there's definitely something missing here, and it's difficult for us to put our finger on exactly what it is. The fact that the story is motivated by revenge rather than just, well, petty egotism robs the game of some anarchic spirit, but then it's not really a meaningful criticism because No More Heroes 2 unambiguously plays bigger than its big brother in almost every way, and that's what makes a good game a good game. Thinking about it a little bit more, we'd say that the increased focus on gameplay at the expense of meaning we saw in No More Heroes is an interesting choice. It loses some of its satirical identity, but again, perhaps that's the intention. We found ourselves wondering what it all meant, if indeed it meant anything at all. Sylvia's purple prose-ish narration of the early game made us think of a bad episode of The X-Files, and we wondered if Suda51 had lost what was left of his mind and firmly kowtowed to his critics in what seemed like a bad self-parody. But it's actually more interesting than that because it's Suda51. No More Heroes was all about the way that games can suck with its deliberately banal locale, pointless repetition, and time-wasting travel. No More Heroes 2 is all about the way that games are brilliant. It's a cliche, but what we have here is Suda51's love letter to the medium he gave both barrels in the original No More Heroes. Everything here is so slick, so brilliantly tailored to having a good time that it's impossible to take any real umbrage at the removal of features that were clearly designed to be irritating. It's worth noting that the content in No More Heroes 2 is even more extreme and potentially more offensive than the original games, but it's also over the top that it's difficult not to take it in the grindhouse spirit that it's clearly been presented. It's the video game equivalent of an exploitation movie with all the excess that suggests. Travis Touchdown's sophomore effort turns the mania up to 11 for an unforgettable blood-soaked thrill ride. Whilst it is a little bit more generic in terms of its narrative, it makes up for this wholesale with brilliant pacing, fantastic minigames, and a whole brace of new ingenious assassins that you have to cut into lots of little pieces. As confident a follow-up as you could ever want, this is Grasshopper at the top of their game. Another fantastic port of a fantastic title. the end of the video, and that means it's time for Alex's personal thoughts. I really enjoy No More Heroes as a series. It is very, very original and very, very weird at the same time, but it kind of pulls it off if you kind of sort of... It's a really weird thing because, yeah, the thing about the first game, and it's something that I experienced when I first played the original Wii version, is that I enjoyed myself, and I found myself playing longer than I thought I would, but there is a lot of downtime, a lot of boring things that you have to do. And initially, I was kind of annoyed by that, but I still didn't stop playing it. It was a really bizarre situation, and that kind of carries over here as well, although it being, you know, now I'm playing it again, as it were, it's not my first time. I was kind of, because I was expecting it a little bit more, I was a little bit more forgiving, I think, which... Maybe slightly misses the point, actually. As great as it is, No More Heroes 1 is kind of... It's almost a difficult sell, which seems a little bit rude and a little bit mean to it, because it is a brilliant game, but it's getting kind of meta in the way that it presents itself, and that really is not for everyone. Like, it really isn't. No More Heroes 2, on the other hand, is a much easier sell in my book. It is just... It's much more refined. It's much more of a game rather than a sort of a piece of commentary. I mean, it kind of is as well, but definitely not to the same degree as Stuart said. But yeah, if you're just looking for a good, fun, cathartic game, I would go with No More Heroes 2 overall. But if you play that and you like where this is going and you enjoyed Travis and you enjoy the themes, then I would say give the first one a look in as well. But as strange as it is to try and go, to suggest going from 2 to 1, I think that's the safest option. I mean, if you fancy a dive into a really weird video game world and taking a bit of a gamble and the money isn't too tight, then yeah, you could go for the first one and then move on to the second, but at the same time, oh god, it's such a weird... No More Heroes 1 is such a weird game. It's brilliant, but it's really weird. And it may well be that for some people that they're not able to appreciate it in that sense, and I really, really don't want that to come across as a sort of a hoity-toity, oh, you don't get it, hipster kind of attitude. It's just, for some people, you know, even if you understand it, you may not like it. And I don't think that people are going to have difficulty understanding it, but it's whether you actually enjoy it as a result. So take that as fair warning, but No More Heroes 2, that's 2 thumbs up, baby.
Hey everyone, John from Nintendo Life here, and today we're finally reviewing No More Heroes 3 for Nintendo Switch. But these will not be my thoughts and opinions, as the original review was written by Stuart Jipp for NintendoLife.com and was adapted to video by me. Anyway, let's get this show on the road.
Damon, I love you! Best friends forever, Fu.
It's certainly a relatively novel take on the whole E.T. thing. Cute little alien Fu returns to Earth 20 years after he was taken in and cared for by hapless Elliot-like Damon. But rather than having grown into any kind of altruistic, I'll be right here simpleton, Fu is now an irascible, bloodthirsty intergalactic prince. And with Damon's help, he's here to take over the planet. Now Travis Touchdown isn't having any of that, especially given Fu's propensity for hurting his friends. So it's once more into the lurid, deeply divisive breach as you plunge headfirst into a brand new, full-fledged No More Heroes experience. Far from the quarter measure of Travis Strikes Again, this is a masterfully drawn pint of gaming stout, though you may find there's a little bit of head on it. See, No More Heroes 3 has a bit of a timing problem. This is to say, the series is a joke. Now, don't get upset, we don't mean it like the series is bad. We mean literally, the series is a joke. It's comedy, it's satire. We reviewed the first 2 games and we love them, we get the joke, we enjoy the joke. The issue is, there's only so many times you can appreciate even the wittiest bon mot before it begins to come off as stale, as hacky, and we fear this third outing may be a jape too far. That's all a matter of perspective, of course. The elements that make No More Heroes such an arresting series are all here. The challenging, hyperkinetic boss battles, the relatively menial volunteer jobs, the constant fourth wall breaks. It's just as shockingly violent in places too, if not more so, with Fu making things personal early on, leading to a sense of real and spectacular menace. The spookily empty open world of the first No More Heroes has made its return here, though it's now divided into multiple islands with the convenience of fast travel, and of course Travis can navigate them on his flashy Akira-style bike. It's an interesting decision to return to the structure of the first game, given this was one of the most criticized aspects of the experience. Here you rocket around the map and take part in designated matches, basically arena fights with various enemy types. From there you earn clout and grind money to enter a ranking battle. These are the main events with the Galactic Superheroes. And again, the minigames you'll need to play to earn enough to progress are routinely quite banal, though not in the pointedly awful way like the first game. But in a sense, this actually makes things worse because the sheer boredom of, say, the lawn mowing task in the first No More Heroes gave the intended satire a much sharper edge. The same task returns here, but it's been made smoother and faster. Overall just spruced up, which simply begs the question of, why didn't they just put something genuinely good in here instead? The game's structured in a breezy enough way, it's just repetitive, and at times you'll wish for a bit of a shake-up. It's an unusual halfway house between the original's arduous but artful progression and No More Heroes 2 pared back, super fun NES-style minigames. A side quest that sees you mining for currency via small, maze-like dungeons is sort of vaguely fun-ish, but there doesn't seem to be any point to it. You could perhaps argue that it's mining for coins akin to cryptocurrency, but why? The original game was confrontational, aggressive in its theming. No More Heroes 3 isn't. Unlike its predecessors, and even Travis Strikes Again, it's just a game. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, not in and of itself, because the combat here is slicker and more enjoyable than ever. It helps that Switch can pump the combat sections out to a near dammit locked 60 FPS. The open world is notably less smooth, but it doesn't matter as much as the on-foot battles, and thankfully these are a ceaselessly enjoyable experience. Enemy patterns are diverse, interesting, and challenging. Designated battles mix up the different foes in marvelously devious ways. This means you have to concentrate and switch targets with aplomb, even on the easier difficulty. Atop the usual suplexes, beam katana combos, spinning slot reels, and finishing blows, Travis has brought over the Death Glove from Travis Strikes Again, allowing him to use special new abilities such as a powerful dropkick, a floating turret, and a contextual time-slowing move. Special chips for the glove can be crafted back in Travis's apartment in Santa Destroy, and again this consolidates what was a time-consuming feature in the first game into a breezier effort here. All of the game's upgrade features are accessible in a single room. Another new feature is Travis's full armor mode, which sees him take to the skies and battle in deep space using a sort of Gundam-esque mecha suit. These battles are pretty simplistic, you just sort of hold down the ZR button to lock onto opponents and release the fire. But the game feel resembles the rather brilliant Zone of the Enders. It's a nice change of pace. It's all very visually striking, with garish effects and the series' trademark hyper-stylization present and correct. And as mentioned, the frame rate is rock solid during combat, although it does tank in the open world. The visuals are also lacking in sharpness, especially in handheld mode where things can look downright sludgy at times. It was never enough to pull us out of the game, but it can get pretty rough. Thanks to a thoroughly twisty-turny, quirky narrative, we found the game consistently compelling. Strictly no spoilers, but the story swerves more than an episode of WCW Monday Nitro, and in directions we never could have anticipated. And there's some excellent music to enjoy too. This theme rocks. Which brings us to the oh-so-sticky sticking point. No More Heroes and its sequel both got 9s from us, but for very different reasons. The original for its punk rock disregard of convention, its absolute dedication to its themes, its crystallized hot-blooded defiance. The sequel for its vastly improved action, superior quality of life touches, better and more frequent boss battles, though despite losing some of its resonance and identity in the process. This swaggering third entry has fantastic moments and it's bound to satisfy invested Touchdown fans, but ultimately for us, it comes in third place. No More Heroes 3 has the faults of both of its mainline predecessors. It's a little more tedious than No More Heroes 2 and a little less meaningful than No More Heroes 1. It does make up for this though by being another inarguably impressive balls-to-the-wall carnage fest. A blood-splattered love letter to excess and a Suda51 fan's wet dream splashed across the Switch. The story it tells is cool, the game it plays is cool. Neither of these crucial aspects reach the heights of the series' origins, but nobody who truly gets No More Heroes could be reasonably disappointed with the third entry. The joke's beginning to wear thin, but it's all in the telling, and Suda51 can still spin a very fine yarn. We here at Nintendo Life are giving No More Heroes 3 an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this, let us know in the comments below, and of course get that subscribe button and slash it with your beam katana, and we'll see you next time. Bye everyone. But we're not done yet, because now it's time for a few of my thoughts. At the end of the day, I think this is a very tricky game to put a number on, because clearly there are flaws, and looking with a critical eye, there is a lot to take apart. The open worlds are very barren, and going around doing the same thing with the same jobs with the same battles, it does get repetitive. It feels like you're grinding to get to the main event, being the rank battles, and they are really fun. It's almost worth the grind with how fun they are, and there's points in No More Heroes 3 where it's just entertaining. The story's fun, the combat's fun, the character designs, they're fantastic. It's just bursting with style. There's anime openings and credits after each chapter, there's brilliant little splash screens, there's points where this game is just nothing but fun, and it starts really well too, but that formula doesn't quite carry the entire game. I guess you have to ask yourself if the moments of borderline tediousness are worth going through to get to the great parts. Fans of the first two games will probably be up for that, but newcomers, it's a bit harder to say. But I did walk away from this game feeling positive. It's rough around the edges, sure, but it gave me that diverse feeling that I haven't felt from a published game in a very long time. It's just something different, something without tons of alternatives. It's something worth experiencing.
When it comes to the Nintendo Wii, there were some decent mature-rated titles on the platform. I thought Mad World was a really fun game, and of course you had games like Silent Hill, Resident Evil on there as well, but I think one of the more interesting series had to be the No More Heroes series. You had No More Heroes 1 and 2, which introduced us to a new character called Travis Touchdown, and these games were very, very cool, unlike what a lot of Nintendo Wii publishers were doing at the time. The game was very gory, lots of adult language, lots of just craziness, and that's to be expected when Suda51 is at the helm. Now, Suda51 has been making awesome games all throughout the years. Killer 7 is one of the most unique games of all time, and it's always interesting to see what Suda51 comes up with next. Well, of course, the Nintendo Switch was announced to be getting a spin-off of the No More Heroes series called Travis Strikes Again, and a lot of No More Heroes fans, myself included, were really looking forward to this game. Now, initially, we didn't quite know what to expect, and when we saw the first gameplay for the game, it was kind of like,
Stop the review! The No More Heroes series is created, written, and directed in that order by Suda51, a developer who has made some of my favorite hack-and-slash games to date. If you've ever danced around zombies as a high school cheerleader wielding a chainsaw with the disembodied head of her boyfriend attached to her hip, or if you've ever helped a demon hunter get his girlfriend back from the Lord of Demons by traveling through the underworld with his sidekick that also happens to be his gun, torch, and motorcycle, then you might be familiar with Pseudo51 and his wacky approach to game design and storytelling. Nothing is ever off limits in his video games. Anything can and most likely will happen.
Now that is a big...
So it's no surprise that No More Heroes became a cult hit back in 2007 when Pseudo released the first game on the Wii. It was perfect timing for the action-packed, mature, rated hack-and-slash adventure featuring oh so much blood, swearing, and not to mention an open world to explore. At the time, Wii owners really only had the option of either Nintendo's own stellar, family-friendly first-party selection or just a plethora of shovelware and fitness games. Other open world experiences at the time, like your GTAs or your Assassin's Creeds, were nowhere to be seen. And the Wii wasn't doing much at all to cater to its older audience. No More Heroes quickly found its audience and performed well enough to garner a sequel 3 years later, which was loved just as much as the first. So you can imagine the hype over a decade and 2 console generations later when a third installment in the franchise was finally revealed. Although the gene was kind of already out of the bag, as in 2019 there was a spin-off title called Travis Strikes Again on the Switch, and Pseudo said at the time that if that game performed well, he would make the long-awaited third game next, and well, I guess he was just feeling generous.
Oh, you're a cute little guy. Come here, little buddy. Let me pick you up, little guy. Oof.
Okay, I need to take a quick second here, because, I wasn't playing around when I said Pseudo is one of my favorite video game creators. I've been playing his games for the last 15 years. Kinda surreal and an honor to be reached out by his PR team and to be given a code for the game over a month early. So, I didn't have to buy the game, but of course I was gonna help support one of my all-time favorite video game creators. Hey! Oh, shoot, sorry. What are you doing?
Using ExpressVPN to watch shows and movies not in our country.
Oh, sweet, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Rick and Morty?
Yep, and South Park, Modern Family, you name it.
Well, what else can ExpressVPN
Well, I'm glad you asked, Harry. Using the internet without ExpressVPN is like keeping all your important passwords on Post-it notes stuck to your monitor hoping no one will see them.
I mean, you can do better than that. ExpressVPN will protect you at home, at work, or anywhere online by routing your connection through one of ExpressVPN's 3,000 plus servers, protecting your IP address, social media logins, credit card information, and more.
Of course, you can use it for fun things too, like watching Netflix.
I'm doing the sponsor spot just fine, thank you. Okay, Jesus. Like watching Netflix or being able to download and play games a day earlier, just by changing your location. Try it out by going to ExpressVPN for sponsoring the video. Surprising no one, No More Heroes 3 is an absolute wild trip from the very start. Opening cold into a Mega Drive reminiscent game that has you defeating aliens with a beam weapon, then you're treated to this beautifully animated opening cutscene that tells the story of a boy named Damon who finds and rescues a small fluffy alien named Fu. After helping Fu return to his home planet, decades pass and Fu returns, but this time he's grown into a planet-conquering alien akin to Vegeta, who, while still befriending Damon, plans to completely destroy the Earth with his alien buddies.
Hi, I'm Nappa, and that's Vegeta. He was a prison bitch.
Shut the hell up, Nappa.
It's a fantastic setup for a story, as the previous 2 games were focused on the assassin rankings, and Travis having to beat 10 ranked assassins to become number 1. It's what these games have always been about, but I feel like the shtick could have gotten old a third time. So introducing bloodthirsty aliens with an intergalactic ranking system was a brilliant idea. Yes, becoming Earth's number 1 assassin is cool and all, but becoming the galaxy's number 1 assassin? I mean, move over, Luke Skywalker. Would Boba Fett or Jango Fett have worked better for that analogy? Probably. The Studio Ghibli style animation is wonderful, and my only complaint is that I want so much more of it, because there's no more after that intro. Hero, but the gameplay. Mwah! Slicing and dicing enemies with a beam katana, drop kicking and suplexing with your wrestling moves, and blasting rockets with your Gundam mech suit. No More Heroes 3 has perfected the series combat, and it feels better than ever. Super smooth controls, fast-paced action, and there's nothing more satisfying than the confetti blood explosion streaming upwards from alien necks. Should probably see a therapist. As you slash away at an enemy's health bar, you're trying to get them down to the point where you can deliver the final blow. It's so immensely satisfying, especially so on tougher enemies or boss battles you've been struggling on for a while, made even better by the motion controls. Yeah, this is one of the few times where it's fun to be holding a Joy-Con and just take them out. When that arrow hits the screen, it's a moment of triumph and satisfaction, with that final swing feeling oh so good. In the previous games, you were thrown more bodies than you knew what to do with, but those bodies were weak and often only took a couple of hits before you could deliver that finishing blow, and that just kind of became more of a game-halting annoyance every few seconds. So making the change to less enemies that are much tougher was a great choice and paid off well. Delivering these final watcha will trigger a slot machine minigame on the screen. If you're lucky, you can get power boost, special moves, in-game currency, or a devastating one-time mech suit use. It's a really fun idea that the series has had since the start, always introducing new ideas, moves, and concepts for the payouts. Oh, and we can't forget the AEW wrestling moves. Well, probably more like All Japan. Professional wrestling culture has always been embedded in No More Heroes since the first game, with Travis being able to perform suplexes, power bombs, and more. In the third game, you can break enemy defenses by keeping up the pressure while attacking. Once you see these stars shooting around the enemy head, it's time to unleash your own shooting star press. These moves will somehow instantly fully charge your beam sword back up, so they're great for keeping momentum in combat. Oh yeah, your energy sword depletes while you use it, and if you let that happen, you'll have to go stand in a corner somewhere and charge it back up by shaking. So yeah, don't let that happen. Although good news, if it does happen and you get game over, you get to play another minigame. This time, a roulette wheel, and I kinda love this one. Step right up, try your luck, and see what you get. You can get a 1.5 attack modifier, you might get absolutely nothing. Ha! Cool. Good God, y'all. But if you're really lucky, you can get another life and revive instantly on the spot. You also got perfect dodges that slow down time, for special abilities like this one that also slows down time. My only complaint is that I like in my hack and slash games, and even the ones that Pseudo has made, when it gives the player more abilities or combos to unlock as they progress. In Travis, you just kind of got what you got, and it's that way for the whole game. It does lead to the game's combat feeling a bit stale before the end. You can level up some stuff using experience points, and there is one branch that will give you extra abilities, but other than the double dash, which isn't very exciting but would be useful, the others don't really seem to be worth it, which is crazy since this tier costs a lot to level up. Way more than the health, for example, so you won't feasibly be able to unlock these abilities before the end of one playthrough, unless you want to ignore leveling up your attack, health, and charge, and all of which become pretty crucial. So while the combat does become a little samey, it's the enemy type variation and boss battles that help break it up and keep it fresh, with no two boss battles feeling the same at all, and the mix of enemies always leaving you trying to figure out if you should take out the long range or the short range fighters first. I swear, some of these basic normal enemies you come across end up feeling like boss battles. So, that's the story and the combat. Yeah, we'll just end it there. That's all. We won't, nah, we'll just stop right there. There's one more thing we haven't talked about, and that's the world. It's, well, it's bad. Yeah, I can't beat around the beam katana here. It's really not great. Beyond even its visuals being poor to borderline abysmal, the world itself serves no true purpose other than to add padding into the game's runtime. Let's get to the visuals next, because that's not even the main problem. But in between each alien assassination, you're thrown back into this world and tasked with coming up with the entrance fee for the next fight, as well as needing to qualify for the next fight. To do that, you need to travel the world and search for these yellow spots, finding markers, and then competing in a pre-qualifier battle. Now, you would think that when you get to one of these markers, you would take part in the battle there, you know, where you just drove to in the world. But no, wherever you end up having to go is completely arbitrary. Arbitrary? Why am I saying that? Weird. It doesn't matter where it is, it'll cut to a load screen as it beams you aboard a spaceship somewhere, and often into the exact same cargo-looking room to fight a few aliens before spitting you back out into the world. Then rinse and repeat several times before the next ranked battle. There is literally never a fight that takes place in the world. In fact, combat isn't even an option. In the first game, driving to a location meant beating up enemies in that location, and the ranked battles were often in that place too. But every single fight in No More Heroes 3 is either in a spaceship, or in space, or another planet altogether, which is cool. I mean, that's awesome in itself. And I prefer the change there. So I'm really not sure what the point was of having to drive to location markers around the world other than just padding out the game's runtime. And this method became pretty stale before the 4th chapter, and you have to do it again and again right up until the end of the game. The only thing that breaks up the fighting is the driving to the fighting. It would be a little better if any main or even side story elements were delivered in these downtime moments when you're driving around competing in the pre-qualifying fights, but it's like the game just goes on hold for an hour while you take care of this and then get right back into the story and action. And I mean, even that would be okay if the world itself wasn't so barren. There's no buildings or shops that you can enter. There are just a few sushi stands around, some weird motionless aliens that you can buy one shirt from each time, and a few mini games like cutting grass for pocket money or picking up trash from the ocean. But nothing that you can interact with in the world itself. And I mean nothing. Don't even try to touch the other cars. Now, I wondered why the first game wouldn't even let you get close to a vehicle. The game's screen would literally freak out if you even tried to get near one. Honestly, they should have done that. Oh my god! There's 2 cars, it doesn't know what to do. And now I know why. They just disappear. Look, I feel bad. I really do feel bad saying all of this. I'm not trying to tear into the game or paint a bad picture. I'm just trying to explain what happens. I can't be the guy that literally demolished Cyberpunk for its world design and then say that this is fine because I really love Suda51 games. The difference is, Suda didn't promise a next-gen open world or anything, but regardless of that, this isn't even this gen, last gen, or any gen. I mean, it's empty and lifeless. Even on the Wii's No More Heroes, the NPCs had better AI, and, you know, visually, it's a mess. Like, I'm not sure why the cars were so detailed in the first game, but here they're just giant pink cubes. In fact, the first game was more detailed in almost every aspect, from the cleaner textures to the pretty much everything else. The amount of pop in here is crazy. The whole city acts like a kid's pop-up book while driving towards it. Certain fences or objects will just appear a couple feet in front of you. I mean, most of the world seems like it's hanging on with sticky tape and glue. Like, I can see through this hill. It's just like a little on top. And I can sit in this hedge. Like, this hedge, it doesn't actually exist. It's fake. And I guess everything is fake, but you know what I mean? Like, this world just doesn't come together in a way that feels real. You can see the strings, you can see the game design, or I guess the lack thereof. Same goes for a lot of the game's visuals, like this Kimmy Love boss battle where the backdrop was literally just a black box and an orange box, and the crowd was non-existent. And don't ask me why they put such a hideous filter on this this part of the world, I absolutely hate it. The game's world is broken up into segments you reach with a load screen in between, and this call of battle area is easily the worst. Maybe the fog is to hide how empty the level is, since some other areas it's painfully obvious what little effort was made, and however bad you think it looks in dock mode, I'm pretty sure it's like 360p in handheld. Does any of that really matter though? I mean, visually, no. It's ugly as hell, but it didn't really bother me. At least it ran smooth. I think it's 60 FPS. I just feel like it was a little rushed, to the game's detriment at times. Like, maybe don't have it pan up from the grass during a cutscene if the grass looks like this, or maybe just fix the damn grass for that one scene. It's the small things too that you miss out on, like the way Travis's jacket was animated in the second game. That was a nice little detail, but here we are 11 years later. Maybe they had more time to flesh out the second game, because they dropped the open world completely and focused on the narrative, world building, and gameplay, cutting out all that padding from the first game. That really worked for me, and I'm not sure why they tried to reintroduce the open world again here for the third, when it doesn't really serve any purpose and the game's story takes place literally everywhere other than Earth. So, all that said, obviously I think there's good parts and there's rough parts. And I'd say I'd agree with most of the other reviews that it's still a great game, but didn't really live up to the standard of previous titles. Any longtime Pseudo51 or No More Heroes fans like myself are still going to love the third game, and I did. I loved it. But for any first-time players, they might find themselves a little baffled by the experience and possibly confused, as the story does nothing to catch you up to speed with what happened in any of the previous games, and it's all just expected knowledge of the world, humor, and its characters. No More Heroes 3 is unapologetically a game made for No More Heroes fans, with literally no one else in mind. And I think that's a fantastic thing for the fans, but it makes it a little hard for me to recommend it to newcomers.
So I guess part 3 is the worst one. First is part 2 is the best, part 1 second best, part 3. Part 3 is kind of shitty apparently. Okay. Well, what have you done with? What's new? Is that his girlfriend? Oh, that was the latest video. Oh shit. No. You should know. Thank you. 10 years that's what you should be worth fine.
Gamers, inflate the balloons and pour a glass of champagne. This is episode 20, edited for you to see. Thank all of you for watching these videos, watching my content. I downloaded to try. I haven't talked about it yet. And do I have to say it? Slicing down arenas swarming with evil creatures. Similar to Doom, staying agile and constantly moving is key. As soon as you start to slow down, you're gonna get overrun with creatures both small and gigantic. Oh, and when I said friends at Devolver Digital, I meant it. They even sent over the boomerang from the game. Maybe because I'm Australian, they thought that I would need it. Little stereotypical, but you know, don't really love being stereotyped, but it's a cool boomerang. It says on the back that they only had 50 made, and I have lucky number 13. I really appreciate owning one of the 50. That's pretty cool, thanks. I really love the flow and movement of Boomerang X, which is good because that's 95% of the game. The game is strictly linear, moving location to location, triggering waves of enemies. It's all about how fun, fast-paced, and furious the action is. There's loads of different abilities to use in combat. Obviously, you can just throw this bad boy, but you can also charge it up for a longer shot, and you can instantly recall it at any time, or you can force pull yourself towards the location of the boomerang. I use this all the time as my movement around the arenas, getting the advantage of enemies, or just getting out of the way of an attack, or for platforming. If you kill multiple enemies with one throw, you get a special ability you can trigger at any time and wipe out entire hordes at once. The variety of enemies is what makes each wave so unique unique and exciting. Many creatures have specific ways of being killed, like a frog who hides its weak spot on its stomach, or a massive giraffe thing that has multiple spots that need to be destroyed. It's all about timing your moves and abilities, getting control of the battlefield. It really is trying to hack your system. VPN can handle and ExpressVPN 1,000+ servers hiding, putting several security. There is a VPN and just use it with like Steam, for example. When ups and find out how you can get $5 game in one of these videos, and with Islanders, I can do just that. It's a relaxing, minimalistic strategy game about building one, but certain over an extra one and just a portable money. You suck up all the first one now. Okay, Dreamscaper is exactly why I am so glad that Kickstarter exists. This one took me by surprise. I was given a code for it, I downloaded it, and then it just sat there on my Switch for weeks. The icon is kinda boring, I gotta be honest. But then there I was on a Twitch stream, and we decided to just find out what it was, and we all loved it. Dreamscaper is an endlessly replayable action roguelike, and if you liked games like Hades or Dead Cells, you're gonna love this too. By night, you delve deep into your subconscious, facing nightmares in an ever-changing world filled with unique items, abilities, and challenges, with these intense and brutally difficult boss battles at the end of each level. Once you die to them, and you probably will, you wake up into the real world. There, you can explore the city of Red Haven, build relationships, and unlock permanent upgrades in order to take on the next dream stronger than ever. The gameplay loop of playing, earning upgrade materials, dying, and then using the idea of permadeath and so well, the sound nothing for a game. I could have become an NPC in the game for 2,000. Is it too late for that? Devs, hit me up. We'll figure something out. Look, I know my audience like I know the back of my Switch. Oh, actually, I can't show you that yet. So I know that most of you already have, or you're gonna love, Garden Story. You play as Concord, a small grape entrusted with the huge responsibility of rebuilding the community and defending it from an unknown force called the Rock. On the crafting side, you are really interesting goals like the software's games and the clear inspiration that them at any time. So there's
Rock you!
First up, this vibrant hand-drawn art style is fantastic, and the reason I was drawn to the game in the first place. I mean, look at it. If that doesn't suck you in, maybe the soundtrack will, as it's pretty freaking badass too. The game is narrative-driven, set in a dodgeball school. Yes, a school just for dodgeball, with a large, lovable, and charming cast of characters. Great game. Unless you guys give it a try. Oh yeah, it's really fun to play. The controls are great, it feels smooth, and there is so much variety in the levels. Playing on Xbox, I can tell you this game is shockingly gorgeous, with some expansive, stunning views and vistas, beautiful shadows and reflections, so I was really worried about how this Switch port would manage to pull it off. But they kept a solid 30 FPS, while also keeping a lot of those shadows, reflections, and lighting elements. Overall, it looks fantastic. They even managed to get tons of the undead swarming your Switch at once without too much strain on the system. I honestly don't know how they managed to pull it off, but this is just one heck of a game to have a friend or two next to you as you all sit in handheld mode and just blast called Indie Games the three-dimensionally around 4 sides. You use this rotation mechanic to reveal new paths through the levels, connecting platforms that were unreachable before. How the game was designed and constructed is beyond me, and such a marvel to behold. Like, imagine sitting there designing level after level that each works in this rotating space. I mean, no wonder it took 5 years to develop. The blueprints alone must have taken most of the time. It's hard to even explain the reaction, shadows, reflections, and lighting elements. Overall, it looks fantastic. They even managed to get I just want to start the video by saying I have merch, and I never really talk about my merch, but I'd appreciate it if you wanted to buy a t-shirt. I have a ton of different designs, and there's a limited time Sorry Jerry t-shirt that I think just looks great. The artist did a fantastic job with it, and it's funny, and if you don't get the joke, then you didn't watch the video, so go and watch the video so that you get the joke, and then maybe you'll want to buy the t-shirt, and it helps support the channel. Thank you. Bye. Or not bye. Bye. I am so excited. I haven't made one of these in watch. There's elements of stuff.
No, chaos game.
Sound coming from.
Hurry up, boy.
G-esque element.
I played it.
Decided it wasn't worth doing this.
I have it.
I don't know why, but you can. So there's a lot of customization that you can hatch, and of course, add it to
No,
your
I don't like that old school
friend.
shit.
No.
I have it. It's cool. I have it.
But you're better off buying it anywhere else. PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Stadia, if it's even on Stadia, you name it, you're better off buying it anywhere else. The visuals on Switch were downgraded so much, and I mean so much, that it barely even looks like the same game in places. It probably could have used like a Borderlands style cel-shaded filter thrown over everything to hide its extreme ugliness. Yeah, as such, it actually makes it super hard to see enemies at touches locked 30 FPS while I study on my laptop, and the window to pop left out in the cold.
Don't care.
Oh wait, Cyber Shadow. Roku is a decent length story at about 8 hours long, but it was one that I didn't want to put down until I'd unlocked all the secrets and solved every puzzle. It had a surprise around every corner, and I thoroughly enjoyed this one. I do love point and clicks in general. I'm a sucker for them, but I really like this one. Cyber Shadow can be considered in many ways was another game. Ninja Warrior waking up in a futuristic cyberpunk world. Sorry, that keeps happening today. I don't. Giant bots, but no, dungeons. We got dungeons to explore. There are two big challenges to face in Bluefire. The first is not slipping and dying while throwing your body
Looks
at platforms
cool.
like they owe you money, and the second is how squishy you are during the combat. You can only take a couple hits before it's game over, so it really comes down to you using the environment and abilities to your advantage in every single battle. It's a really rewarding sense of progression as you play and upgrade your abilities, like the amount of time you can spend in the air, attacking and dashing. Areas that would be tricky to traverse early game, I'd find myself flying. Hey! Hi! And subscribe before more. Whether you want to climb and soar your way up the peaceful mountain landscapes of Hawk Peak Park. The beautiful autumn aesthetics are so crisp. The yellows, the oranges, the browns, they all leap straight off my Switch screen and land me smack bang in the middle of a Starbucks, buying my 15th pumpkin spice latte this season already.
Hi, welcome to Starbucks. We're gonna get started for you.
Hi, can I get me one of them pumpkin cream cold brews in the largest size you have, please?
Okay, I can do the Venti pumpkin cream cold brew, or I can do a Trenta, actually.
That might be too big. How big is that?
30 ounces.
That sounds like a lot. Let's stick with the Venti. Okay, I'm basic, but I'm not 32 ounce basic. That's a lot of coffee. I should have got it. I've had too many of those. This game soothed my soul. From the visuals that initially had a 3DS reminiscent look but grew on me quite quickly, to the lush original soundtrack that progresses dynamically as you explore the mountain, but also the gameplay. You can explore the island any way you like, choosing your own path as you go. You'll meet other hikers, each with their own stories and great dialogue, find hidden treasures like feather upgrades allowing you to fly or climb higher than before. Yeah, and don't expect any heart-racing, blood-pumping, action-packed gameplay here either. This is a game that promises a moment of peace in a world drenched with chaos. It's simply a short story about a bird's hike up a trail that has no cell phone reception. So for only $6.99, put away your own damn cell phone for a couple of hours and just enjoy the tranquility that is a short hike. Next.
That looks pretty cool.
Wait,
I like
did
it.
I say tranquility? Yeah, never mind. Screw that. Throw it out the window. It's time to get loud. Double Kick Heroes is allowed.
It was a rhythm game. I played it.
Cares for spirits.
I don't care for this. I don't care for this one.
Gig workers.
I played that one before
and of
on
course,
Game Pass. I'm still on Game Pass actually.
find out that your friend's missing. You end up finding a somewhat abandoned and completely forgotten about town out here, and you face many challenges you can decide on yourself, and those choices aren't always easy to make. Like trying to decide if you want burgers or wings for dinner. Sorry, when I was writing this script, it was almost 7 p.m. and I was really hungry. I don't know why I wrote all that into the script. Alright, when it comes to surviving, there is literally no tutorial. So you'll find yourself dying, often early on, as you try to figure it out. And while that might be a hunt and is a fully fledged, looks gorgeous out everywhere. Follow me on Twitter, by the way. I'm so close to 100,000 followers, and I want that. Visuals and the name gave me Wind Waker vibes, but in practice, there was nothing like my beloved Zelda title, and that's okay. In Windbound, you find yourself washed up on an uncharted island shore. As you gather some supplies from the surrounding islands, you fashion yourself a small boat and begin to adapt, explore, and navigate the perilous seas to stay alive. This is a crafting, hunting, survival adventure you go at alone. There are no other characters or NPCs around the world for you to meet. It's a journey of self-discovery, as well as unlocking the secrets of the islands around you, and sailing. A lot of sailing. As you scavenge the land, you can craft new tools, weapons, and eventually even bags, which help expand your inventory space, which I can't recommend enough. The boat files and stories that in a
no, I don't like this boring looking
generated for the player. This game was going to be called No Man's Sky. And once the media heard about the concept, they blew it out of proportion, as the media tends to do with most things, and set expectations way too high.
Yeah, I played it before on PlayStation, on Xbox.
Played it together. Look, it's not good, but that's kind of the point. You can be a lobster, wielding whatever weapons you want, fighting, and trying to flip over the other sea creatures for a 3-peat count, you're out. Okay, yeah, it's honestly so stupid. But I mean, it's pretty fleshed out. It has a campaign mode with 34 different stages, 23 types of play.
Sure, whatever.
Lack of exclusives, no.
The game is too sad. That shit is too sad.
I need to talk about still, but remember, there's like 25 of these videos, so do me a favor and watch all 25 and take note before. Oh my goodness. Find out what you're using is a month. Other ingredients and materials to create tasty meals or craft bigger items for your island. And you can hop into your little boat and you can go anywhere in this world, like the main town, where you can buy or sell more seeds, ingredients, and much more. You can also pick up and find out of this charming, however you pronounce this game, for the criminally low price. Match everything I have ever watched.
It's an RPG and good shit.
Searching for this video that it released way back in February, and that's why I'm glad I make these videos, because
the good shit does not look good to me.
Chance to catch up or fully understand the game's mechanics.
No.
Store to upgrade your pod racer in different ways, from top speed to cooling and traction.
Oh, it's not from 64?
The game is just fast, frantic, with fun racing gameplay and visuals that have honestly aged like milk. This is a game purely for us nostalgic seekers, and I love it. For a spin-off Star Wars, it really wasn't bad. Oh, there are some good uns on this list today, and Crosscode, is still loading. Actually kind of ironic considering the context of the game. But Crosscode is just another fantastic one on the list. The depth to this game is
it looks pretty good.
As you progress, you will unlock the ability to shift between elements, like being able to power up your attacks with fire. This also unlocks new skill trees for those modes, and those come with their own devastating special abilities. Initially, I found the game to be really difficult, and it doesn't help that years later, and that's
actually shitty. I don't like Castlevania.
Is finding upgrades, solving puzzles, and unlocking doors. Now, while many humans are easy to grab for a quick munch crunch, there are many.
No, too shitty.
Still looking a little dated. It is like a 15-year-old game, but mostly it just plays smooth as butter, and I'm just so gosh dang impressed with this little guy. I don't know. Good job, buddy. You continue to impress us. I have no clue what you did with Outer Worlds, but everyone makes mistakes. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to do this. Every time I make another one of these, I'm like, how have I... This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Oh, the Nintendo... B-word... might get lucky and get by Stanley Parable. There's always a good laugh around every corner as you blast away at aliens and fight to keep your best character alive. This is a really fun game that might tide you over while you wait for games like Metroid Prime to release one day maybe. Either way, I really like this one. What the golf? You guys remember what I will salvage some of the key happen so I can stop talking about Void B-word. I'm not gonna say it out loud because I enjoy being monetized. And it's by far one of my favorites on the list today. I was immediately sold on the comic book inspired visuals, the fluid FPS action and awesome enemy designs. Oh, and the death animations. Void B-word is a roguelike that has you traveling through space fighting for fuel, food, and scrap materials to build cool new weapons and gadgets with. The cold vacuum of space is heartless, brutal, and death is expected. That's where the game really starts throwing curveballs at you. On each Die Die Bye Bye, a small robot will salvage some of the key items you managed to craft or collect on your playthrough. But you'll essentially be starting over with a new, freshly unfrozen meat sack prisoner, each one with their own pros and cons. I've had run-throughs with prisoners with bad smoker's cough that would randomly and alert all the enemies nearby. I also had one guy with tunnel vision, which was very frustrating. However, you might get lucky and get a prisoner with an advantage. You know, like one that doesn't cough every 5 seconds. Each star map is randomized, so you never know what abandoned space station you may stumble upon next. Struggle for survival, search for scrap, and make progress towards the game's main story goals. Other than the addictively fun gameplay loop, the writing and narration are high points here. With the same voice actor from the Stanley Parable, there's always a good laugh around every corner as you blast away at aliens and fight to keep your best character alive. This is a really fun game that might tide you over while you wait for games like Metroid. Reminds me of that Game Award brought to you by What the Golf takes the concept of golf and throws it out the window completely in favor for ridiculous fun. The very first level in the game has you traditionally sinking the golf ball into the hole, and from there, literally nothing goes as expected, with each level keeping you guessing, laughing, and stepping up the craziness factor. Every level has challenge variations too, adding in large amounts of replayability. There's a decent sized campaign, as well as the new addition of 2-player levels. What the Golf is just pure chaotic fun. Hey, good job. Oh, you didn't do anything. That's the name of the next game. It was good job. You just sat there. Did you like the video? Did you subscribe? Well, in that case, now you get a good job. With so many eShop games blasting their way onto Switch every day, a Nintendo published game that may have slipped you by is good job. Look, we've all worked jobs we hated, but imagine if one day you could just snap and start doing whatever you wanted and nobody cared, as long as the job got done. That sounds like fun. Like slingshot catapulting a projector through glass or crashing a forklift into everything. Sure, but when I do it,
Why would I want to play something at work?
Safety fines,
Most of us try to avoid work.
Randomly switch to
Not avoid, but
the
escape
dungeon makes me
them.
want it. That the third game is the best one, and it's also the perfect place to start a journey in the franchise.
It's also the hardest one
to the original game. In my opinion, the third is by far the best of the 3 games. It fully embraces the psycho craziness the series became known for, with its insane cutscenes, humor, and gadgets to slay demons with. The gameplay is by far the most polished, and it introduces the awesome style switching mechanic for Dante. It allows him to switch between trickster style for dodging, swordmaster style for agility, gunslinger style for firearm techniques, and royal guard to repel attacks. And later in the game, you even unlock 2 more, allowing you to slow enemies and create a shadow clone version of yourself. And this Nintendo Switch version of Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition adds the ability to switch between styles at any point during the combat, so this may be the best way to play my favorite Devil May Cry game, the third. So if that ain't worth 20 bucks, I don't know what is. So is it worth 20? Well, I just said it was. Also, I wouldn't be talking about it if it was. On to the next one.
My favorite Devil May Cry game is
a
Part
game
5.
has confidence in its audio design
It's
when
this
it
is
asks you
this
to
one.
wear headphones while playing. And in the case of Shinsekai Into the Depths, it has every right to be confident. And I don't know if that's how you pronounce Shinsekai. come to a water apocalypse, and you play as one of the last survivors on Earth. Although the worst is yet to come as the water begins freezing over and you need to dive deeper and deeper to escape its chilling touch. Screw that. I am so scared of the ocean. Mining for resources and searching for equipment is key. Upgrading your suit to withstand the depths is the only, so take damage with atmosphere, fun boss, and almost all by Night School, who previously gave us eternal damnation. So until then, and that's to challenge Lucifer. Astounding and
this is when you
reminiscent
go
of
down
Inside, and how you do
like
that is completely
Satan.
the controls are tight, right? Yeah, no. Everyone that went over and checked it out. But now it's time for you and you to make your own website with Squarespace. You know, Square, a very, very bad game. It's called Snaky Bus. Look, man, I can't stop playing it. I wanted to buy this game for 2 reasons. 1, it reminded me of that other game Cluster Truck I liked, and 2, and more importantly, it's like that old Snake game I used to play on my Nokia in high school, except bigger and with buses. It's actually really humorous to me because the strategy here is exactly the same strategy I remember using back in the day with that Snake game. As your Snake bus grows, make sure not to trap yourself in, stick to the outer lanes or the outer sides of the screen so you have room to move around inside the wall you build, and just whatever you do not crash into yourself. Or in the case of Snaky Bus, crash into anything else. Your bus grows the more people you pick up and drop off at a location, and I absolutely love the chaos that ensues when your bus gets to the point that it's wrapped around the block 4 times and you can see all the arcs where you've previously jumped. The game is far from perfect. Or even good. It's not a good game. Like I said, it's bad. The frame rate starts to plummet the more you fill the screen with bus motors from Sky. Much fun. Do with that what you will, and the truck is in the game. I wonder if there was a direct initially planned. Bigger, more impressive Switch releases we've had this year. Published by 505 Games, I played this game in co-op back on Xbox when it initially released in January and had an absolute blast. And this port holds up pretty well considering how visually intense the game is. While the graphics have taken a hit and the colors don't pop quite as much as I would like, it still looks really great here, especially in handheld mode. Journey is an adventure Metroidvania style game as you crash on a strange planet, exploring the world for upgrades and slaughtering alien life forms left and right. It's punched full of humor, from the funny quips the ships progress through the story. I do recommend Break Days, and I like that he could explore. I don't know why I'm getting angry. We did it. We did it. I haven't tried any of these out. Just me being me. The actual video, just have a good time. Alright, whatever, let's the house. I do the first level. I mean, look, you play as an overprotective Roomba that can't stand idly by while his house is being broken into. You dash to the kitchen, suck up a knife and equip it to your face and start stabbing, dropping fans and exploding windows onto the would-be criminals, but not before cleaning up his dirty footprints and only after sucking up all the leftover blood that admittedly was partially my fault. You know, since I drew first blood. But hey, to survive a war, you gotta become a war. You know, you could even say, I'm their worst nightmare. This game blends my 2 favorite things, killing bad guys and loads of inanimate objects, 16-chapter campaign and a 5-hour runtime. It's a great game to just blast out some levels with a squad of friends. A huge drawback for me though is that there's no in-game voice chat. So unless you have Discord loaded,
don't care anymore, just you said that.
Each of the genres it tackled
played it.
Their favorite go-to party game.
It's gay.
So I touched there was floating around hunting for creatures and then slamming those creatures onto your crossbow and using them to hunt for even bigger bounties is sound and
gay.
Is Florence, a 25-year-old
gay.
But these quick little coming of age story has you brawling creatures, solving
shitty.
2019.
No, thank you.
Notice how long the battery. Actually, more why this happened, but
no,
that's how you
don't
know
give a
it's
shit. Don't give a shit.
Ours a remaster.
Don't give a shit.
And so I would.
Man, put something good,
It
bro.
appears as a
What
color
was that?
mutant. Bosses would take us an entire night
Nah, I don't give a shit.
to release on Switch. I guess I'd have at least one more dollar, because Trover Saves the Universe, oh, that's a game I didn't see on a Nintendo system. I, as an adult, was very excited to play Trover Saves the Universe when it launched on PlayStation VR, as I had already played and thoroughly enjoyed the other VR games made by the Rick and Morty show creator, Justin Roiland. And Trover was absolutely the best of all those three games, taking elements from both the previous games and mashing them into a more cohesive action platformer adventure. It has the exact same kind of vulgar sense of humor that you can expect. Eat each other, you see this shit? But there's also an option to switch to a kiddie-friendly version of the game, which I never tried, but I assume it would be less. You see this shit? Gross. Here's the thing though, this video is called eShop Games Worth Buying, and while Trover is on the eShop, and I do believe it's a game worth buying, funny enough, it's not a game on the eShop that I would recommend buying off the eShop. What I mean by that, I would stick to the VR for this one. The humor in this game alone isn't worth the $29.99 price tag, and for me, the VR aspect of Trover is what really made it something special. They worked with the VR to build many unique and fun elements that are just totally lost outside the headset. And the ridiculous world and its characters are better experienced in first person, from your floating chair, which actually acts as an integral part of the story, it's kinda lost when you're playing. Sweet, charming, wonderful intellectuals watching this VR. Dharma sets I'm missing Windows website. I even better edition game. Other than my call, but I freaking
I sucks. I played it.
Trading. As legitimately mad as I was getting. And if you've been here for a while, thank you. Hey, how's it going? Nice to see you.
know what?
First up, I want to say I love these new Joy-Con colors, the purple and orange. I didn't think about it until now, but they're perfect for the fall season. But that's completely irrelevant, so let me just get started with a shimmy sham. I don't know why. What are we doing?
Sure, buddy. Shimmy sham. Sony backtracks on PS5 upgrade after backlash and a big game leak early online news. Really?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So last week, we have talked about the strange and confusing situation that Sony presented around Horizon Forbidden West and the upgrade path from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5. Seemed like way more work than was necessary for consumers, and it looks like Sony must have heard everyone online as they decided to reverse course about 48 hours later, and we're going to go over all that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Sonic Colors. It came out a bit early with the Digital Deluxe Edition, and turns out the game needs a bit of work as there are a ton of bugs and glitches that people are finding online right now. And we're also going to be talking about a big title that appears to have leaked out a little early and it's getting people very excited because they've been waiting a while to hear about this one. Guys, if you enjoy... What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So last week, we have talked uploads here on the channel, and we're going to start today with Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City, specifically the decompilations of these games. See, online, there's a group that's been working to take the games really as they are now and work to reverse engineer them so they can be ported to systems like the Vita. Well, turns out Take-Two does not like that at all. We can head over here to Twitter. This from GTA News saying, unfortunately, we have some breaking news to cover on. Rockstar's parent company Take-Two Interactive has filed a lawsuit against the folks behind the reverse engineering project for GTA 3 and Vice City, also known as RE3. And you can see the filing here, complaint for copyright infringement, and they are currently demanding a jury trial. Now, I look at this and I do wonder if this is more of a scare tactic than anything else, because generally with these decompilations, you still need like an original ROM file or copy of the game so that the assets can be pulled from it. And if you want a better breakdown of the overall lawsuit in more detail, I would check out MVG's channel. He did a video discussing this a bit more, as he is certainly, I'd say, more knowledgeable when it comes to the homebrew and like hacking scene there. But I'm curious where this goes from here exactly, because Nintendo didn't even mess with the Super Mario 64 decompilation. There's a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time one coming up, and really this group has been working on things like San Andreas, and if Take-Two is able to completely halt the development of this, it could set a precedent going forward for any of these decompilations. Also, we know ahead of that PlayStation 5 release, Sean Layden had left Sony. And a lot of people were wondering what exactly happened here. Well, he sat down and talked with Bloomberg around this, and there were some interesting answers, we'll say. We'll head over here. This from VG Charts, again, according to Bloomberg, saying, "It's a young person's activity. I felt this is a good time to put the pin in my legacy." He added that he helped shepherd some of the highest-rated PlayStation games with Horizon Zero Dawn and God of War, and it seemed like a good time to step off on top and allow another generation to take the PlayStation 5 to market. Now, he was asked about some of the rumors around there being a power struggle between him and the current PlayStation boss, Jim Ryan, saying, "I think I took my time at the moment. I saw best to take it." He said, "I couldn't be happier." And I do think there was still a power struggle, if you want to call it. I think there was disagreements on where to take this next generation that we're in right now with the PlayStation 5. But you also have to remember, Sean Layden may have been looking at this saying, hey, this generation coming up could be 7 to 8 years that I have to stick around to see this generation through. The PS4, wildly successful. Like, I think I'm good. Like, you know, you kind of step out, as he's saying here, on top rather than hang out and potentially have a generation, because you never know what happens, right, in the next 10 years or so that could go completely south. So I understand what he's saying here when it comes to this, and it appears that he had a different vision when it comes to games being developed, more like in a 3-year cycle and maybe not having the same production costs that we are looking at currently going forward here. But from what I could tell, it just seemed like, hey, Sean Layden, he was ready to move on. Oh, and a quick update for anyone looking to get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X, or potentially even a Nintendo Switch going into 2022. Turns out this could be a thing that is consistent, that being shortages around consoles into 2023 even. Again, through Bloomberg, talking with an executive at Toshiba, we can see this here.
That does not surprise me.
The supply chips will remain very tight until at least September next year. In some cases, we may find some customers not being fully served until 2023. Game console makers are among the customers making the strongest demands, and I'm sincerely sorry for their frustration, as none of them have a 100% satisfaction. Yeah, we could be dealing with this whole situation right now around low stock with systems for a while. Like, this could be something we deal with for the entire first half of this current generation with the Series X, the PS5, and potentially the start of Nintendo's next generation. You get into 2023, that's what, 6 years since the Switch came out? We figured we're going to start thinking, at least, about the next generation Switch, and this is something that Nintendo will probably have to deal with. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Horizon Forbidden West and Sony changing their mind, or reversing course, we'll say, on this whole thing around going from the PS4 to the PS5 version. Very quickly, they did announce kind of all the different editions for Horizon Forbidden West, the standard PS4 and PS5 copy, but if you want, as they say, dual entitlement, you needed to spend $80 right then and there in order to make sure you had access to both versions. Basically, if you have a PS4 leading up to Horizon Forbidden West, and you're not sure if you're going to have PS5 then, or maybe get a little after, you would either have to buy both copies of the games, at different times, or just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy this $80 version just in case. Well, people weren't too happy about that. There's a lot of noise being made online, and it turns out Sony heard everyone as they decided to put out an update on a Saturday from Jim Ryan. That's how you know someone was in trouble. Let's head over here to a PlayStation site where they updated, saying it's abundantly clear that the offerings we confirmed in our pre-order kickoff missed the mark. Last year, we made a commitment to deliver free upgrades for our cross-gen launch titles, which included Horizon Forbidden West. While the pandemic's profound impact pushed Forbidden West out of the launch window, we initially envisioned we will stand by our offer. Players who purchase Horizon Forbidden West on PlayStation 4 will be able to upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version for free. I also want to confirm today that moving forward, PlayStation first-party exclusive cross-gen titles, newly released on PS4 and PS5, both digital and physical, will offer a $10 USD digital upgrade option from PS4 to PS5. This will apply to the next God of War, Gran Turismo 7, and any other exclusive cross-gen PS4 and PS5 title published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. All right, so a lot of stuff happened here, obviously. One, they decided to change their mind on Horizon Forbidden West, which actually makes that situation confusing once again. Because think about it this way. If the PS4 version of Horizon Forbidden West is going to have a free upgrade to the PS5 version, why would anyone buy the PS5 version? Considering, okay, they're both that normal pricing structure, 60 for PS4, 70 for PS5. Why don't you just buy the PS4 version? Or why wouldn't the PS5 version just be $60 anyway? But really, you buy the PS4 version, technically you get both versions. It's going to be very strange to see these both on retail store shelves and one being $10 more than the other. with the other one getting more. Again, we'll see how this goes in February, but the other part here is they decided to just confirm and make this as straightforward as possible. Going forward, as they say with God of War, Gran Turismo, and any others that they do announce, there will be a $10 upcharge for that upgrade, which is what I feel like a lot of us expected, because the $70 price tag, that's not going away. They're sticking with it. It appears to have worked with Ratchet & Clank, where they sold 1 million copies in like less than a month or something. They're good with that. As much as I know none of us like paying more for games, I think it's something eventually we saw coming at some part in our life when it comes to games. The price will go up. It went from 50 to 60 a while ago. Eventually it was going to go from 60 to 70. So while I'm happy that Sony decided to reverse course on this whole thing, I'm not ready to stand up and applaud them completely over this, because they put themselves in this position in the first place, and then reversing course most likely happened because, yes, they had all that noise online of people pushing back around this decision, but also I have a feeling those pre-order numbers weren't where they were thinking they would be. And yeah, a lot of that has to do with, I'm sure, one, it being kind of confusing what they were presenting there, and two, people just deciding, well, I don't really need to pre-order it now because I don't know if I'm going to have a PS5 for the holidays. Maybe you get gifted one. Oh, I already pre-ordered the PS4 version. Does that mean I got to buy the PS5 version now? Again, on top of that, some people, like I said, just kind of step back and said, oh, wait, it's not out till February anyway. I'll see how the holidays go. And Sony, I'm sure, wants those pre-order numbers to come in a bit stronger, so they decided to change things up. I'm happy, though, that they just, hey, put it out there as straightforward as possible. This is how the upgrades are going to be handled going forward, because I feel like that's what a lot of people have been looking for, is just clarity around how this is going to go down over the next year. I mean, I'm thinking by the end of 2022 going into 2023, it's just going to be all PS5 titles from there. At least I hope that's the case, because it does appear that Sony has just been confused this entire time on how to deal with cross-gens. They just need to get to PS5 only territory, I think. Next up, let's talk about Sonic Colors Ultimate. If you paid $5 more for the Digital Deluxe Edition, you could have started playing this game right at the end of this past week. It's 4 days before launch, and launch is tomorrow, so I guess that would have been like Friday you could have started playing this game. And as people started to go through it, they realized something. There's an issue with this game. Like, there are bugs, glitches, save data is being wiped on different systems. It is a mess right now for a game that a lot of people were looking forward to. I mean, if you go over to, like, for example, leave a link down below in the sources to Eurogamer, who compiled a ton of different tweets just showing off the game crashing, doing some of the strangest things when it comes to graphical glitches, and doing some very almost psychedelic looking images and video that had like seizure warnings attached to it from different people on Twitter. Now, I will point out some strange stuff was going on where people were playing it through like a Yuzu emulator and talking about glitches on the Switch. Turns out it wasn't actually the Switch hardware they were playing on, but it was a Switch emulator. However, there were also many people who were able to show that this was happening on their legit Switch hardware. For example, you can see Nintendo World Report here saying our review of Sonic Colors Ultimate isn't ready yet, but we can confirm that the glitches being discussed on Twitter can happen on real Switch hardware with the 1.0.3 version of the game installed. The following video was captured from our review copy, and then they also go on further on how to recreate this glitch on a copy of the game. We also have other people who decided to prove that, yes, they were on the Switch by going to their gallery and kind of replaying it there. For example, you can see this tweet here from Gamer STO. And getting beyond just the glitches and bugs and stuff, the Switch version seems to have it the worst overall, even when it comes down to load times. Like, it's 3 times longer in order to load up certain levels compared to the Wii version. Like, you can see this here from Nintendo, everything posting up this screen capture showing the Nintendo Switch at almost 17 seconds versus the Wii at 5.5 seconds. The PlayStation 4 even playing on the PS5 got a second and a half there. I don't really understand why the Switch version wasn't the priority here. Looking into who ported it, it was Blind Squirrel Games. You may remember Blind Squirrel Games. They were the porting studio that handled WWE 2K18. Now, that comes up a lot. However, recently, they did work to port and do different versions of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which was a very good game overall. Now, we can see the Sonic social media manager here, Katie, say, hey, everyone, appreciate all your feedback on Sonic Colors Ultimate, and the teams are listening and assessing for an upcoming patch. Thank you all for your patience as we dig into this. Going on further, say quick aside, we've seen some graphical issues that were caused by an emulator, which is unfortunately outside of our control. Trying to figure out what bugs are legitimate can really slow down the QA process. If you're having issues, please do flag them here. So this whole thing is an unfortunate situation for Sonic Colors Ultimate, because Sonic Colors was a very fun Sonic game on the Wii. A lot of people still say it's like their favorite 3D Sonic game, and it's a shame to see it come out in this condition, especially since some people paid $5 more than the retail price will be tomorrow to play it 4 days early, and yeah, essentially beta test this game. I'm not really sure how it got through their QA process in this condition. I have talked to some people who played all the way through the game, like Dreamcast Guy. He played through it on his PS5, it was the PS4 version, through backwards compatibility. Had no issues with it, going from start to finish. So it's not like every time you play the game, it's just gonna explode on you, but there's certainly a certain quality that people expect from their games when they release, and it's pretty clear that Sonic Colors Ultimate has not reached that level of quality yet. We'll see how many patches have to come out for this, and if they're able to get one out for launch, which is tomorrow. I'm thinking not quite. So it might be worth holding off on Sonic Colors for a bit here just to see. I have noticed that the Switch version's even on sale right now on Amazon for about $33 or $34. So that's also linked below if you want to check it out there and just grab it at a discounted rate anyway and see if a patch comes out. But here's hoping Sonic Colors can get a patch and get all this smoothed out in the coming weeks. Next up, let's talk about a big game that appears to have leaked online a little early. I say a little early because we could be finding out more about this title this week, maybe on Thursday. Let's head over to Wario 64, where this all started. This is back in June, where Wario 64 noticed saying Final Fantasy VII Remake listing found on Epic Game Store backend, which we're still waiting to hear about the PC version for that one, but they do say as well as Alan Wake Remastered. All right, so that was back in June. It's been a little while since then, at least until September 4th, where Wario 64 tweeted out Alan Wake Remastered listed for October 5th release, PS4, PS5, and Xbox on Rakuten. Now that is, I mean, that's a month from now. Like, that's pretty soon. Alan Wake Remastered, that'd be very, very exciting to see that get revealed, and I am wondering if that's something we're going to find out more about with PlayStation Showcase, maybe alongside of Remedy. They show up and say, hey, here's Alan Wake Remastered, because there have been talks around Alan Wake, a sequel to it, going into production at Remedy pretty recently, and they're working on that now, so naturally it would make sense to get Alan Wake Remastered, which at one point it was like delisted, I remember, and then it came back on PC, and it's been all over the place when it comes to just availability.
I never played it on the Wake. I have it on the Xbox.
Being able to grab it, put it on the PS5, the Xbox, PS4, all this, just getting it out there again, and potentially taking advantage of the newer hardware we have now, which Alan Wake on the 360 at the time looked incredible. Like the lighting effects that they had on that hardware then, I can only imagine what they would be able to do with like the PS5 and the Xbox Series X now, especially with like all the lighting effects, and they could probably, I would say, update some of the assets and just make it look like an overall better game. Kind of thinking of like Mass Effect Trilogy and what was able to be accomplished there. Maybe. I mean, remasters at times, I don't really know what we're getting if it's going to border more on remake territory. But I do believe this is something coming up here pretty soon, and I wouldn't be shocked to see it this Thursday. So here's hoping. I'm crossing my fingers for Alan Wake Remastered. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about this new Mass Effect game that was unveiled to us at the end of last year, and it got Mass Effect fans really excited because there were concerns that Andromeda single-handedly just ended the series completely. And a lot of its initial problems that it had when it launched seem to have to do with the Frostbite engine and BioWare trying to adapt that to the Mass Effect universe in general. Well, it turns out for this new Mass Effect game, we could see them returning to Unreal Engine. We can head over here to VentureBeat. This from Jeff Grubb, where he noticed a job listing talking about Unreal Engine, saying the post says the publisher's looking for candidates who have experience with Unreal Engine or higher. Going on further, Jeff says, I've confirmed through multiple sources that this is because everything is on the table when it comes to tech for a new Mass Effect game, and that includes potentially replacing EA's in-house Frostbite engine with Unreal. And clearly, Unreal Engine was able to be used for the first 3 Mass Effect games, and I know there were a lot of controversy around Mass Effect 3 and some of the stuff they did with the ending, but like, everyone looks at Mass Effect 2 and says that is like one of the best games they've ever played at times, really. I mean, certainly on the 360 and during that generation, a lot of people remember that as one of the best experiences that they had. And them returning to Unreal Engine most likely would do a few things. I feel like it would probably speed up development, that being one of the biggest things, and really might give them the ability to do certain things they can't do with Frostbite. I mean, Unreal Engine's come a long way now, and they could even use Unreal Engine 5, right? And have some really cool effects and different things they can do with that, versus Frostbite, which wasn't exactly designed for Mass Effect. I would say, okay, Mass a bit of a revival here, especially with the newer tech we have with the PS5, and after seeing the visuals they are able to pull off in the gameplay for Ratchet and Clank, I think Sly Cooper could come out and do pretty well now. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Skew saying, look how big of a deal this is. And most of us, myself included, said, well, yeah, that makes sense to me. You know what company has done the best job advertising smart delivery so far? It's Sony, because like their stuff is so off the wall and all over.
Hey all, Scott here. It's been 4 years since I felt joy. The Nintendo Switch has worn me out so much during each and every one of its birth months. I can't look at a game called Snipperclips the same.
Funky fresh beats.
Whether you're listening or watching from around the world, live or on demand via YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or other streaming platforms, welcome to another Games Talk Live. I am Jay Fonzarelli, and I've got a great show for you today, folks. My guest today is somebody who's been creating content here on YouTube for well over a decade. And to be quite honest, he hasn't changed much. But in a sea of creators, especially in the gaming space where everybody is much alike, I say his content is refreshing. And despite his tough and rugged exterior, and sometimes the language he uses, I'd say wholesome as well. Now, if you're looking for that old school YouTube feel and someone who's going to give it to you straight and not pull any punches, this is your man. But before I introduce him, I want to show you who and what he's about. If I can get this started here, bear with me.
This is going to be epic. At least, I hope it is. What's up, gamers? Dreamcast Guy here. I have to mute my phone. What's up, gamers? Dreamcast Guy here, and today we're talking about this mysterious PlayStation 5 showcase that was just announced yesterday. A bunch of y'all have been asking me to do some predictions, and to be honest, I have some thoughts as to what will definitely be here, and some stuff that is not showing up, even though you guys want to see more glances at it. Now, as you can see here, this was just retweeted by Shuhei Yoshida, the head of PlayStation Indies, and I think that this is a hint that we're probably going to see some tinier games mixed in with some big stuff. I want to start off by tempering your expectations. I have a feeling that about 50% of this is going to be them talking about older games, showing games that are about to be released, just more gameplay from stuff that we've seen before, but I think a lot of this is basically going to be the PlayStation Victory Lap. We're coming up at the end of year one of the PlayStation 5, and typically Sony, if they're doing a reveal this late in the year, normally it's just them talking about what they've already done correctly. But there is a lot of room for big surprises. So this is the the PlayStation blog, and I was going through it. Specifically, they say, hey, thanks so much for being patient. We actually want to show you some stuff that we've been working on. If you look here, it says they're doing a 40-minute presentation that includes updates from PlayStation Studios and some of the industry's most imaginative developers. But here's what kind of caught my eye. They specifically say that there's not going to be any VR stuff or no reveal of the next generation of VR. This is specifically going to be a PlayStation 5 showcase. And this already, I feel like, is starting to give us the biggest hint as to what's probably going to show up. But first, let's kind of crush some dreams. There's been a bunch of rumors and talk about the fact that they might reveal some sort of new Crash Bandicoot, because technically this event is happening on Crash Bandicoot's birthday. I don't think Crash is showing up. Additionally, if you're hoping to see more of Death Stranding Director's Cut, that's not happening because now they've showed us that the reveal trailer for Death Stranding Director's Cut, the final one, is going to be the day before this big event. So Death Stranding also not going to be at the big event. Now, additionally, the final thing is there have been a ton of rumors and leaks and stuff talking about a Sly Cooper new game. I don't think Sly Cooper is showing up either. This is going to be some big stuff. There's going to be some great surprises, but these games definitely will not be there. Let's start things off with just a lot of hype by digging into the idea of God of War Ragnarok actually showing up. Now, some people seem to be a bit confused as to why there is just such raw excitement for the next God of War game, and I think part of it comes down to the fact that Cory Balrog, the director of the game, has been just talking in interviews about how ambitious that project was, how hard it was to make it so the axe feels good to swing, how nice it is to smash monsters to bits, but additionally, the director of the game talked about the fact that they had so many ideas. Like originally they had a million different plans, different objectives, different gods they wanted to kill, and they narrowed it down to this specific focus. They made it sound like from the very beginning they always planned for this to be like 2 or 3 games. And the fact that the first game was such a freaking banger, it makes us kind of just imagine that God of War Ragnarok is going to be an even bigger, even crazier experience, especially with a name like Ragnarok, the apocalypse of the Vikings. The game itself is probably going to be a masterpiece just like the first one was, but more than that, I feel like Sony is trying to sell as many PlayStation 5s as possible. I think they like the fact that they're constantly just flying off store shelves, and I do think a lot of people are buying a PlayStation 4 for God of War. Sorry, buying a PlayStation 5 for God of War. Sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister. Now, I want to talk about a game that personally I'm perhaps the most excited about, a game that I just want to exist so badly. There has been a ton of leaks and rumors talking about a new Silent Hill. Specifically, apparently there's like 2 different projects, and one of them is a PlayStation 5 exclusive Silent Hill reboot, taking us back to the original story, giving us another glance into that incredibly twisted town. Now, I probably shouldn't say this, but I have heard from a very, very good source that the PlayStation 5 trailer for Silent Hill is done. It is edited, the CGI is put together, everything is ready to broadcast whenever Sony decides to show it off. Now, sometimes this means the game's still 6 months away. Sometimes you have a trailer complete and you sit on it until there's a proper freaking spotlight to reveal your game. But I know for a fact that the Silent Hill trailer definitely exists and is ready to go. Speaking of gigantic horror games, though, we have to talk about The Last of Us. Naughty Dog has been incredibly quiet. I think a lot of us are kind of expecting them to make some sort of gigantic announcement soon, and I think that this could go in 2 separate directions. I think that we're probably going to get a Last of Us Part 2 director's cut. I mean, I'm not particularly excited about it because, you know, I'm kind of mixed on that game in general, but also, I mean, that game already looks so good, it plays so good. Like, the idea of a director's cut of it does not really get my pulse pounding the way certain other games would, but I heavily expect that we're going to see a freaking reveal of The Last of Us 2 multiplayer. I think that there's probably going to be a teaser trailer that has like monsters popping up and you hear some growling and stuff, and then it shows a bunch of different characters all fighting them off simultaneously. That's probably what it's going to be. But the other direction they might go, and perhaps the one that personally I'm just more excited about, is what if we get the reveal of a new Uncharted game. This would do two things very, very well. It would actually hype people up for the PlayStation 5, and also, I feel like Sony is needing to do more of talking about the future. I feel like Sony's been doing very, very good at establishing, alright, here's what's great now, and you could play it in 6 months. Here's another great game that's pretty fun, and you could play it in 8 months. I feel like they're doing a good chance of talking about the future in short tense, but I'm curious to see what gigantic stuff is still cooking in the oven for late 2022, or maybe summer 2022. Which brings me to a project that seems to be rumored. It seems like it might be coming out actually in just a couple weeks, or I guess coming out in the next month or two, which is apparently some sort of Grand Theft Auto remaster project. The rumor that's apparently going around is that there's going to be a packaged box set of GTA Vice City, GTA 3, and GTA San Andreas, but actually redone with better graphics, better visuals, and hopefully some better controls, because as much as I love those old games, at times it is very, very clunky to try and run around and play them. A remaster trilogy of that would be completely epic. However, like, as exciting as this is, I think there is a chance that instead of Rockstar showing this off, I think there's a chance that they just talk more about GTA 5 PlayStation 5 Edition. That is supposedly happening this year, and let's face it, GTA Online is still making them so many billions of dollars that it's probably more profitable to show off GTA 5 on the PlayStation 5 instead of just showing off your classic games coming back, which, let's face it, is a one-time paycheck for them. They're always thinking about those microtransactions. Now, the last thing here that I've written on my notes that I think is definitely going to show up is two separate things. Kena Bridge of Spirits is coming out in just a couple weeks. This indie game is incredibly cute. I like the Disney aesthetic to it. The closer we get to release, the more excited I am. And the fact that Shuhei Yoshida himself actually retweeted this announcement makes me think that this is currently their biggest, most high-profile indie PlayStation 5 experience. So it's making me think that this is definitely going to be there to get some last-minute hype before it actually releases here in just a couple days. Now, the final game is one I personally hope is going to show up, but I kinda doubt, which is another teaser trailer for Final Fantasy XVI. Square Enix has been so silent, and additionally, Square Enix is doing this like special showcase themselves here coming up at the beginning of October at Tokyo Game Show. So since they're doing their own showcase, it'd be a little bit weird for them to show off Final Fantasy XVI here. The only reason that I still have the sliverest of hope just comes down to the fact that Final Fantasy XVI is in fact a PlayStation 5 exclusive, at least for now. So it makes me think that if they're trying to show it off, maybe it'll be more profitable. Maybe they have some sort of like Sony marketing deal. But really, I just want to see some gameplay of it. The first trailer we got for Final Fantasy XVI was a very impressive experience, but I just want to see more of how the game is actually going to look and play and not just some cryptic lore pieces. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts, some impressions as to how this event may go down. What do you think? Have you had a chance to actually look at this announcement? Are you excited for it? Do me a gigantic favor. I did a big video today talking about the crazy controversy going around Horizon Forbidden West. That video is actually kind of exploding right now, but if you haven't watched it, go click it. It'll be at the end of this video. You guys rock. Much love. Do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Like my Venom shirt? Look at that. Yeah. I don't know why I did the James Bond song. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.
TV.
Well, sorry for leaving you just. I don't think no one's watching. I don't know. Probably not. The Joker told the boogeyman, you have to let that rider drop. The sheriff don't like it. Boom, boom, boom. Rocking the Casbah. Rocking the Casbah. The sheriff don't like it. Boom, 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 boom. Rocking the Casbah. Rocking the Casbah. Hey Google, today's date.
It is Monday, September 6th, 2021.
I think that's tomorrow at PlayStation or whatever. Or on the 9th, I don't know. This Joker don't lie. I got a new subscriber. Pikmin. Let's go. The sheriff. Oh, sheriff's. You know what? I want to go online, but when I go online, it asks for my information, so I'm gonna stop the broadcast for right now. The sheriff don't like it. Rocking the Casbah. Later, I think I'll stream right now after I surf the web.